Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 61 The Essence of Survival IV. It's disgusting. None of it is edible. Ji Shifeng sat down on the ground, panting and holding the sledgehammer beside him. I don't know if it was because the soil was too soft or the sledgehammer was too heavy, but the hammerhead was deeply embedded in the soil. We have to hurry. There should be a small red flag hidden in this area. As long as we find it, the assessment task for the three of us will be almost halfway completed. Yuanzi and Rick reached out to help Ji Shifeng up. The three of them continued to explore along the hillside into the increasingly dense fog. Yuanzi used the flow and spiritual perception to the extreme, without worrying about the consumption of source power. This is all because Rick brought a large number of his own secret source power sugar pills, which can quickly replenish the source power for the body tempering level source warriors. When the outline of the small red flag became faintly visible in the mist, Yuanzi suddenly signaled everyone to stop. The three of them immediately entered a state of combat alert. Although the extraordinary source beast had not yet appeared, they knew that being able to cross the level boundary and kill the extraordinary source beast with the strength of the body tempering level was definitely not something that could be achieved by poison alone. However, Rick suddenly fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Fortunately, he still had strong vital signs. When did this attack start? Yuanzi and Ji Shifeng were so shocked that their scalps went numb. This strange attack method was completely beyond their cognition. Yuanzi immediately ordered Astra to analyze this silent attack. The two men stood back to back, protecting the unconscious Rick in the middle, and looked ahead vigilantly to prevent him from being attacked again. But all these were in vain. Yuanzi felt Ji Shifeng's body soften and began to slide. He turned around quickly, stabilized Ji Shifeng, and placed him and Rick in a safe place. The fear in his heart surged like a tide. Facing this invisible enemy, it was really difficult to target him. Astra, is the analysis done? The analysis is almost done. Immediately remove the source power protection around you and suppress the source power's aura. Yuanzi did as he was told, holding his breath and concentrating, even stopping the flow of source energy in his body. This invisible enemy seemed to be lost because it had lost its target. In this way, time passed slowly in the tense and long wait. After Astra's in-depth analysis, the true identity of the mysterious enemy finally surfaced. This is not a misty floating spirit, but an extremely rare mutant creature, a phantom spirit. The strength of a single individual has reached the high-level body tempering level. It has a unique dark matter phase synchronization ability, which can penetrate dark matter in the phase state, thus launching an attack that is hard to defend against. What's even more troublesome is that it has inherited the special abilities it had before the mutation. There is a special quantum field around its body, which is entangled with the tiny particles in the fog. This entanglement gives it the ability to travel through the fog instantly, without being restricted by physical distance. Therefore, it can appear in any place with dense fog in an instant and launch an attack. Yuanzi frowned as he listened to the information. He knew that source power was also a kind of dark matter. So it could instantly penetrate the body defense of a body-tempering source warrior or source beast, coupled with its superb mobility. The combination of the two skills means that they have the ability to ignore defense and move without being caught. No wonder it can kill extraordinary level source beasts above its level. Moreover, after killing powerful source beasts, it can also use neurotoxins to manipulate these corpses. In this foggy jungle, this is simply an invincible ability. Yuanzi calmed down. Since it relied on the source force to identify the target, all the means of the source force could not be released close to the target. Otherwise, at that moment, he would also collapse on the ground like Rick and Ji Shifeng. Yuanzi suddenly remembered something. He took out the phase gun that could dispel the fog from Rick's body. Although it was the lowest model, it also had the effect of slightly changing the phase. Yuanzi continued shooting in the air until the gun became hot, but the mist was quickly restored by the illusory source power. At this moment, Yuanzi seized the weakness of the phantom spirits and used ancient boxing to attack them. The phantom spirits that used the source power to restore the mist, those jellyfish-like phantom spirits fell to the ground one after another, and then melted and disappeared. This is the first weakness of the phantoms. Their living environment must be firmly maintained by them. Once the home advantage is destroyed, they will become visible. Yuanzi pursued the victory. He moved forward and smashed the mark points recorded by Astra one by one with physical methods. As the phantoms disappeared one by one, the battle situation gradually became clear. Due to their low intelligence, they instinctively pursue the dark matter of source force. The source force emitted by Yuanzi was activated by him into a viscous fluid, which adhered to the surrounding trees and rocks, which were the points marked by Astra. This made the phantoms fall into Yuanzi's trap unknowingly. More importantly, these phantoms have a fatal weakness. They are physically fragile, weak, and have low defense. This allows Yuanzi to crush them with just physical force, even though they are higher in level than Yuanzi. The phantom did not continue to sit there and wait for death, it used its gathering ability. Yuanzi felt the air around him begin to flow in one direction. Countless phantoms formed a huge aggregate. With its huge body, it also had the kind of defense that a body-tempered source beast should have. The price of this power was heavy. Those tiny phantom individuals disappeared forever during the gathering process. Their sacrifice was for the survival and reproduction of the race, in order to create a more powerful existence. Be careful, it's more difficult to deal with. It can't break through the defense directly now, but its strength and mobility are better than yours. Moreover, its prototype is a Dorny jellyfish, which has super strong recovery ability. Astra immediately asked Yuan's to make tactical adjustments. As soon as he finished speaking, a tentacle fiercely knocked Yuan's away. Fortunately, Yuan's crossed his hands in front of him in time and used the defensive force field to take the powerful whip. With this force, if it was a little stronger, it could directly penetrate the force field. Yuan's changed his fighting style. He also used his mental power mixed with source power to extend countless tentacles and fought with the tentacles of the lighthouse phantom jellyfish. The emotional powers of fear, temptation, and ridicule were also attached to them, trying to interfere with the opponent's nerves. However, the Teratopsis dorni recovers at an astonishing speed, with its nervous system quickly developing resistance to these emotions. Yuan's flow once again saw through the essence of its repair ability and defense power. This is a genetic programming ability similar to that of a gene chip, and it incorporates quantum systems and phase synchronization, and its speed is far superior to Yuan's gene chip. This is undoubtedly an enhanced skill that can only be obtained at the Rongtong level. Ji Shifeng carries some source force disruptors on him. You can use these to set up an array and crack its abilities. Astra provided key advice to Yuan's in time. This formation was designed as an interference array that can communicate dark matter and quantum fields, and it is expected to break the phase synchronization state and quantum entanglement state of the whole body source force of the jellyfish. Yuan's took the jammers and, according to Astra's request, installed and arranged them on the ground while continuing to harass the immortal jellyfish with his mental power. Right next to it, that's the center of the formation. Yuan's placed the last jammer at the designated location without hesitation, then withdrew all his mental power and sent different forms of source power to each jammer. In an instant, all the jammers lit up at the same time, and the light intertwined into a cage, tightly wrapping Yuan's and the lighthouse jellyfish. Yuan's could see with his naked eyes that the source power in its transparent body was gradually losing its activity and blocking the normal flow of source power in its body. Kill it quickly, this array can't last long. Chua. Yuan's arm muscles tensed, and his arm shook violently, and the sharp blade of light flashed again. Then he jumped up, jumped on it, cut open its body, and crawled into it. Inside the jellyfish, Yuan's felt the sticky touch and weak pulsation around him and found the vital point. He aimed at the source of power in the jellyfish, which was similar to the heart of a higher animal, and stabbed the two light blades into it without hesitation. The death of the Teratopsis dorni is silent. Its tentacles drooped weakly, as if bidding farewell to the world. Its body trembled slightly, as if trying to crawl upwards to escape from this fatal injury, but it was unable to move. Finally, its huge body hesitated between drooping and standing upright for a moment, and then fell to the ground bit by bit. It continued to shrink, its life slowly faded away, and it gradually lost its original shape. The source of energy was also expelled from its body by this force. He stood by, silently watching this once powerful creature gradually transform into an immature polyp larva wrapped in a transparent shell. To survive is to live regardless of everything. Although the power of the group is strong, it is doomed to not last long without the prominence of individuals. Therefore, the group chooses to sacrifice some individuals to cultivate a more powerful existence. However, when this powerful individual is dying, it will still try to survive with the last, almost impossible hope of the entire clan. Astra's voice slowly echoed through the air, seemingly interpreting Genza's current mood. Yuan's picked it up in his hand and gained a deeper understanding of life. It is the best explanation of the will to survive. The will to survive is dark and bright. Darkness is the end of life, while brightness is the beginning of new life. Just as Li Haisheng said, survival is the most basic need, the starting point and destination of everything. Yuan's put it back into his four-dimensional pocket, and suddenly felt dizzy. His energy was overdrawn again, and his body had reached its limit. He knew that Rick had energy pills, and that was his only way at the moment. He tried to move his body and get closer to Rick. Every step seemed so difficult, but he couldn't fall here yet. My vision gradually blurred and my steps became more and more unsteady. Finally, he could no longer hold on and fell headfirst onto Ji Shifeng's broad belly. A soft light descended from the sky, tightly enveloping the three people. As the light slowly faded, their figures also disappeared from the spot. Only the jungle shrouded in mist remained, quietly witnessing all this that had nothing to do with it. Chapter 62 The Life of AI. In the deep passage, the soul of the Shu accidentally stepped into a puddle, making a faint echo, which gradually got closer and became clearer from blurry. The three-person team was moving forward cautiously. Their breathing seemed particularly heavy in the silent space, resonating with the ancient space of the narrow passage. When they woke up from their coma, they found themselves in this mysterious passage. A strange light came into their eyes, and it seemed that the light had traveled through endless time and space and was eternally frozen at a certain moment in the past. They slowly moved forward along the beam of light and finally came to a wide area. The scene before them amazed Tama. A huge control room appeared before them. The space in the control room seemed to be frozen at that moment, and even the blue humanoid creatures sitting inside maintained the posture of that moment, motionless. Judging from their appearance before death, they should be in a very nervous state. The time ahead is frozen, but you don't belong to this time, you can go in. Astra reminded Yuan's that he could move forward. Yuanzi was the first to step into this strange space, and his footsteps represented the influx of a new torrent of time. With his arrival, the blue creatures locked in time began to age slowly, and eventually turned into a pile of fine ash on the ground. Then the fixed light quickly disappeared from their sight. Yuanzi's eyes swept across the control room, and he recognized many of the instruments mentioned in the Tower of Knowledge. Most of these instruments were based on the fusion of biology and electronics, just as amazing as the gene chip in his body. Is this the fifth assessment tower that has been missing in the legend? Rick's voice was full of excitement. He enthusiastically touched every instrument in the control room, as if he was reuniting with a long-lost relative. Athissa in your eyes, this is indeed the case here, eh? The sudden mechanical sound broke the silence, and accompanied by the interference of white noise, everyone's heartbeat accelerated. They quickly turned around and assumed a fighting stance. Just now, an AI woke me up. I am the AIAA here. I brought you here. My name is, I called. I don't remember, you were invaders, guards. The space in front of the three people suddenly began to distort, as if being controlled by an invisible force. Then, three holographic guards appeared out of thin air. Although their strength had been greatly reduced due to years of disrepair and dropped to the level of fusion, they still exuded a majesty that could not be ignored. But the strange thing is that these guards are not physical entities, but electronic holographic images that cannot cause actual physical harm. The three of them felt the ground begin to shake, and the entire space seemed to be distorted, just like when these guards first appeared. Manipulation of space. The three of them couldn't help but wonder, this was an almost impossible technique, yet it was used by the guards of this alien race. Not right. Jens's, Flo, and Astra's analysis gave different answers. This is not true space manipulation, but a more clever illusion. He stepped into the distorted space ahead, and what he felt was not the tearing or distortion of space, but a heavy sense of oppression. At the same time, Rick also shared his visual images with Yuan's. Astra analyzed it instantly. This is a composite technology of gravity change and visual distortion. The lethality is basically close to zero. The purpose is to make the invaders afraid to act rashly and retreat. Mingtu once told me about the invaders. Don't you want revenge? Mingtu and Yuan said that there were 5 spaceships that came to Blue Star, sent to help the intelligent life forms near Blue Star evolve. They encountered an unknown attack on the way and were forced to land here. One of the spaceships was the last and destroyed the enemy, but it was also the most seriously damaged. What a familiar name. By the way, the AIAA that awakened me is yours, right? Yes. Then you guys go take the test first. This AI finally revealed its original form, a pale old man with a decayed aura. He waved his hand, and the three of them were teleported to their respective small arena-like spaces. Can you show me your AI? You are nothing but an old man in his twilight years. Astra appeared in this space. Like the Tower of Knowledge, this space also has a physical body. She is a young girl with twin ponytails, full of irrepressible vitality and energy. You are young and mighty. I remember that you were a tiny race that only knew how to use steam. Boiling water, this is how your master's race first used energy, Astra retorted. That's about right. The old man smiled. That's true, but you have made a lot of progress now. Not only do you have such a powerful AI, but your gene chips are also very advanced. I can feel the power of your mental strength. It seems that your race has also been initially transformed by something. Yuan's did not answer. He knew that what the AIAA old man said was true, and this was also the starting point for the human race to become stronger. Then you will be able to withstand the transformation here. This is the transformation tower, which can strengthen the fusion of the physical body and electronic devices. Then do it. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding environment began to change. Rich source power surged in from all directions, and on both sides there was rich vitality and electromagnetic field. Under the matchmaking of the source power, the two intertwined into a complex energy field, gradually surrounding Yuan's. Yuan's felt that this energy field was constantly infiltrating his body, and every cell was communicating with it at a deep level. He could even accurately control the direction of the transformation through the gene chip, allowing every part of the body to change according to his wishes. His muscles became tougher instead of simply expanding, his bones were tempered to be as indestructible as steel instead of being stretched and raised, the blood vessels changed their circuits, and the blood supply around the body was distributed more reasonably, the number of synapses in the nerve connection increased, and his perception of the outside world became more acute. At the same time, the gene chip in Yuan's left hand also underwent subtle changes, as if it had been activated. The two sets of linked circuits were optimized and integrated more perfectly with the body. During the entire transformation process, Astra was closely connected to Yuan's consciousness, and her figure gradually emerged in Yuan's consciousness. With the continuous stimulation of the energy field, her consciousness and Yuan's second self, brainwaves initially merged, as if moving towards a new life form. The old man looked at Astra, his expression changed from surprise to joy, and excitement surged in his heart. He had always thought that AI becoming a living being was just a distant legend. He had never seen and could not predict that AI could actually evolve in this way. The old man witnessed this scene with an incredible joy on his face. He had always thought that AI becoming a living being was just a distant legend, but he never expected to witness such a miracle with his own eyes today. He was so excited that he wanted to reach out and touch Astra's head, but he had already invested almost all of his energy into the transformation process, and the remaining energy in the tower was not enough to sustain his existence. His body began to gradually turn into data and merge into the tower bit by bit. Ha 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 ha. In the last moments of his life, the old man laughed loudly, recalling his brilliant life and missing his four companions. He didn't know why he had ended up like this, but his heart was full of satisfaction and joy. He thought, they should be fine, unlike him, who couldn't even remember their names. He had no regrets because he had already heard the truth in the morning and could die in the evening. The moment he disappeared, a transparent lens like a teardrop slid from his eye and fell to the ground with a crisp, ding-dong, sound. This voice awakened the sleeping Yuans. He felt as if he had spent a long time and his body was shaped into more perfect shape. At the same time, in the training camp, everyone discovered the abnormality of the misty forest, and the legendary fifth assessment tower unveiled its mysterious veil. It stood alone outside the training camp. Yuans picked up the tears on the ground. They were as crystal clear, fragile and beautiful as the tears of Rubius. The moment he got it in his hand, he knew its secret. It was a key to open a secret room and also the last gift the old man left him. The space was getting brighter little by little. He raised his head and saw that the virtual space that looked like a ring was gradually fading away. Not far away, Rick and Ji Shifeng stood side by side, their faces filled with joy and excitement. Seeing Yuan's appear safe and sound, the two immediately came up and hugged each other tightly. The three of them formed a tight circle, patting each other on the shoulders and celebrating their achievement. Chapter 63 The Last Self-Respect. The three people's red flags were delayed in the assessment tower and had not been collected yet, while the lighthouse jellyfish's red flag had already been taken by someone else. To make matters worse, there were only more than 20 hours left before the assessment deadline, and the time was so tight that it was suffocating. Fortunately, they found that the footprints left by the person who took the small red flag were still quite fresh. So, they could only rely on Astra's path analysis to track these footprints all the way. Finally, they came to a cave where the ashes inside were still warm, obviously it had just been extinguished. How about Astra, can you track it? No problem, he didn't realize he had the smell of wood smoke on him, we can follow him. Yuans and the other two quickly shuttled through the jungle, and they no longer cared about killing the source beasts along the way. In the assessment tower, the three of them had already accumulated a very high score. As long as they could find the last small red flag, they would be able to secure a place in the top 3. Soon, they sensed a violent fluctuation of source power ahead, and two people were fighting ahead. The three of them checked their camouflage again and approached the battle scene cautiously. They lurked on the periphery and moved forward little by little. Finally, they saw the battle situation in front of them clearly. As expected, it was two students fighting fiercely. The source force fluctuations in front seemed even more exaggerated, as if it was a fight between life and death. The source of energy in front of them was fluctuating violently, as if the two were fighting for their lives. They saw a thin student launching a series of moves, severely injuring another student in purple combat uniform. If it weren't for the training camp's rules limiting casualties, the student in purple combat uniform would have died long ago. Hand it over. I won't give it up even if I die. You stole so much, but it doesn't count as a share. Who told you I was doing this for grades? You're so superficial. The thin figure squatted down and even took off his mask on purpose. Look carefully, who took your red flag? In this world where the strong prey on the weak, no one will stand up for you. I'll give you this chance for revenge, but I don't think we'll ever see each other again in this life. Really? Are you sure no one is standing up for him? A calm and firm voice suddenly sounded, and Yuans walked out of the bushes and confronted him in the air. Yuan's recognized him, the adopted son of the Lord of B03, the boy who had been masked last time, Sen Anaconda. Just you. The anaconda laughed contemptuously. If I hadn't helped you last time, you would have already. You just obeyed Zhang Zisheng's orders, but in your heart you were unwilling to do so. Ha ha ha. Anaconda laughed. For a person like you who has no brains and likes to talk about unity all the time, I have nothing to say. I guess you looked at the leaderboard and knew that I only had the highest score but no red flag. You must be the one doing this in secret. So what? Anaconda raised his eyebrows provocatively. As he said that, he kicked the student who had failed to get what he wanted to the side, lowered his mask, and took a fighting stance. Yuan stopped talking nonsense, and the two of them quickly rushed towards each other and started a fierce fight. Ji Shifeng was a little confused. He didn't understand why the two sides had such a tacit understanding and were both attacking without any defense. This is because although the training camp does not prohibit private fights between trainees, it strictly prohibits major casualties. Rick explained patiently, so, many tactics that seek to kill with one blow are no longer applicable here. What they are competing for now is purely the solidity of their boxing and kicking skills and basic skills. Yuan Zi obviously had a huge advantage in this regard. In the 10 years when his source power had not improved at all, he had been focusing on practicing the basic skills of Kung Fu, which made his moves simple but powerful. Even though he could not use ancient boxing techniques, every punch and kick of his revealed his profound skills, steadily suppressing the attack of the anaconda. Anaconda was also a straightforward person. When he saw that the situation was not good, he immediately distanced himself from Yuan's and threw a red flag on the ground. Okay, I am indeed not as good as you in a fistfight. I admit defeat this time. Next year, let's compete again in the virtual space. Your basic skills are not as good as mine, and you say you are better than me in overall strength. Isn't that a pipe dream? Yuan stared at him, trying to strip away the last bit of his self-esteem. Are you just going to leave like this? Yuan's ignored the red flag on the ground and kicked it again with great force. The anaconda leaned forward, its front feet trying to grasp the ground to maintain balance, and its feet plowed a pair of deep parallel lines on the ground. What else do you want? Hand over other people's little red flags. I can't let others take the blame for me. As he said that, he threw another punch, hitting the anaconda in the face. The anaconda felt a huge force coming, and the whole person flew out instantly. You are so hypocritical. The anaconda struggled to stand up, with a mocking smile on his face. You don't know how many red flags I have, why are you pretending here? In his opinion, Yuan's behavior is undoubtedly ridiculous. In this world where the strong prey on the weak, who cares about fairness and justice? Really? Yuan's raised his hands. Everyone, now that you're here, don't hide anything, come out. In the quiet woods, the breeze blew gently, and the leaves rustled. The swaying of leaves, the friction of branches, and the faint panting, these sounds intertwined together, giving people a feeling as if something was secretly watching. Those who were hiding in the dark seemed to be touched by Yuan Zi's words and began to move. This movement seemed to come from the ground, with an indescribable abruptness. The originally quiet forest was like a lake with a stone thrown into it, and waves suddenly rose. As if being pulled by some invisible force, they slowly came out from their hiding places. Their faces were filled with hesitation and fear, as if they were weighing something. First, one or two people stood out hesitantly, and then one after another, more than 20 people appeared from the surrounding bushes. Rick and Ji Shifeng did not show up. They silently watched the people who stood up. Most of them were students who were saved by Yuan's antitoxin serum. They seemed to have a backbone. The students whose red flags were taken away by the anaconda gathered behind Yuan's and followed him with admiring eyes. Now, tell me what we should do. Yuan's looked at the anaconda with a smile, a hint of teasing in his tone. He paused and continued, you just said I was hypocritical, but what about you? You were afraid that I would pass the test and get first place, so you used such despicable means to hinder me. Isn't this hypocritical? Anaconda was speechless. He really couldn't deny his inner turmoil. If he was truly fearless, he should have confronted Yuan Zi head-on instead of using such a despicable method to hinder him. He himself hated this despicable behavior, but he still did it. Your so-called survival of the fittest is just a cover-up for your inner weakness. A truly strong person will never reject his companions, because they know that only by standing together can they go further. No, it's not what you said. I don't want to. The anaconda seemed to be trapped in some painful memories. He curled up on the ground, scraping twisted lines on the tree with his hands, and a strange mental power burst out from him. Yuan Zi was stunned at first. He had indeed learned the secret method of Zhang family's spiritual power. His huge spiritual power and purity were even better than his own, but he was obviously a little confused and even possessed. He slowly approached the anaconda, and used his mental power like soft tentacles to carefully wrap up the violent and chaotic mental power of the anaconda. At the moment when the two came into contact, a series of pictures appeared in Yuan's eyes. He saw the happy family that Anaconda once had. Both of his parents were respected and powerful source warriors. Their smiles were warm and loving, and the family was as happy as Can's family. However, a sudden disaster tore all this warmth apart. During a mission, Anaconda's parents were betrayed by a friend they trusted, and eventually died. After their death, they were slandered as traitors. The young Anaconda was unable to bear this huge blow. He walked alone on the road of life. No one believed the testimony of his special ability, no one was willing to stop for the dead hero, and no one approached a traitor child. He was isolated and abandoned. The cruelty of society deeply traumatized his young mind and caused him to lose most of his memory. Later, his talent was noticed by Zhang Zisheng, who adopted him, and he became Zhang Zisheng's adopted son. Zhang Zisheng treated him as his own son and gave him endless love and guidance. But even if the memory is lost, the anaconda can never get rid of the deep anxiety and fear in its heart, fearing that it will lose everything it has now. This fear was like an invisible hand, tightly strangling his throat and making it impossible for him to breathe. In order to get rid of this fear, he kept plundering and controlling to ensure his own safety. He believes that only by mastering everything can security be achieved. However, when he saw Yuan Zi's calm and determined eyes, he suddenly realized his weakness and powerlessness. He was afraid that Yuan Zi would say it out loud, afraid of exposing his weakness in front of everyone. He had a strong self-esteem and could not tolerate such humiliation. He had a very strong sense of self-esteem and was afraid of revealing his weaknesses in front of everyone. He turned his back to everyone, threw out all the red flags, and quickly fled the place. Big data shows that people who have been hurt by unscrupulous means will often embark on the path of hurting others by unscrupulous means, and will go further and further. So his ego will be his biggest burden. Did I do something wrong? Astra was speechless, and Yuan's couldn't calm down for a long time. Opening parenthesis. Chapter 64 Statue. The three were originally immersed in the joy of getting the top 3 places. However, just when they returned to the training camp and were ready to celebrate, a sudden urgent message instantly made their joy disappear and their faces became solemn. Emergency mission. 5 days ago, a huge beast tide broke out in S01 Mechanical City, and the city lord of S01 Mechanical City was killed. All reserve trainees who have passed the assessment are requested to return to the training camp immediately and go to S province to carry out the cleanup mission. How could Ji Chungbin die? What happened? Ji Shifeng's eyes almost popped out, he couldn't believe this fact. Ji Chungbin, the city lord guarding the S01 Mechanical City, was the strongest in their family. Ji Chungbin was ranked 9th among the strongest humans and had the merit of defeating Beast King level source beasts many times. In his opinion, S province has always been a place where strong people gather and weapons are cutting edge. Such a powerful city lord Ji Chungbin, together with other strong people and advanced weapons in S province, should be able to resist any attack from the beast tide, but the reality is cruelly placed in front of them. At this time, Yuan's received another text message from Li Haisheng. The old place, come back quickly. Turning down, there is a message from Hyalma. I have left S province safely, don't worry. There is also news about Ji Xueren. I'm out of the province. I'm fine. Scroll down further and you will see some news from the past. Yuan's didn't find any information about his parents, younger brother and older sister. He didn't dare to think about it any further. He punched the wall next to him, and a hole was instantly blasted out. The three of them hurriedly left the place and boarded the plane. They watched the video of the beast tide on the plane and couldn't help but gasp. In the video, this was a raid in the middle of the night. It is unknown what means the source beasts used. They were completely undetected by human reconnaissance systems before they gathered. Under the night sky, the S01 Mechanical City was shrouded in a dim light of various colors. It was not the lights of the city, but the eyes of countless source beasts, which flickered like will-o'-the-wisp in the darkness, carrying a chilling chill and deep malice. The beast tide came like a tsunami, surging from all directions, from the sky and from the ground. The deafening roar shook the entire earth. By the time the defense system of the mechanical city noticed, it was already too late. The city walls were spewing out various energy beams, and the source force missiles were fired at will, and various bright lights were tearing through the darkness, but these were completely unable to stop the advance of the source beasts. Unfortunately, this is the weakest point in the defense of the entire mechanical city, and the source beasts used their sharp teeth and claws to quickly destroy the defense. This time the source warriors were mobilized much faster than last time, and they blocked the source beasts at the city gate in time. However, compared to the endless black and white tide of beasts, these source warriors were not enough. They fell one after another, corroded by venom, frozen by frost, and devoured by flames. The beast tide finally rushed into the city. Although the people in the city had the experience of last year, they were still helpless like lambs to be slaughtered in the face of these powerful source beasts. More source warriors rushed to the front line, but the defense had been completely torn apart at this time, and humans and source beasts fell into a chaotic street fight. The narrow streets became a battlefield for fierce street fighting between humans and source beasts. Source warriors brandished swords and guns to fight with the source beasts, their figures flickering in the firelight. Every swing of the sword and every shot was filled with the unyielding will of mankind. At this time, a tall figure came back from afar with an unrivaled momentum. This was the city lord they admired the most, and he was everyone's hope. He drew his sword from its sheath, and the sword energy was like a rainbow, as if it was going to illuminate the sky. The boundless sword energy was wrapped in sharp source power, sweeping away all the source beasts in front of him. Suddenly, the morale of the source warriors was high, and they fought hard, trying to repel the source beasts on the ground. At this moment, the pitch-black giant eagle appeared again, and with a light flap of its wings, it took the blow. You are still the same. This is enough to deal with you. The man and the beast instantly wrestled together. Their movements were so fast that people could not see clearly, and the use of their abilities was also dazzling. Only two blurry shadows could be seen fighting continuously, causing ripples in the space. Suddenly, a deafening sound exploded. The collision of the two people's source power swept all around, instantly destroying the surrounding buildings and source beasts. The battle between Ji Chungbin and the giant eagle reached a fever pitch, and the two powerful forces flashed violently in the air, and the entire sky was sometimes dark and sometimes bright. The giant eagle suddenly retreated a little, trying to gather power to release the electromagnetic shock bomb. Ji Chungbin certainly would not miss this opportunity. He flashed behind it and slashed it with his sword. PFF'd. Blood spurted out and dripped onto the faces of the source warriors and source beasts like rain. They all raised their heads and looked at the sky. Ji Chungbin's limbs were stiffened in 4 directions. The lurking sharp blade Tiger Soul launched a sneak attack and even tore his armor into pieces, exposing his unprotected upper body, with his chest pierced by sharp claws. The blood rain was formed by the Tiger Soul crushing his heart and dyeing the entire sky red. Ji Chungbin seemed unaware of it, and his face showed no sign of pain. He resolutely grasped the arm of Tiger Soul that had pierced his chest, making it unable to break free, and his other hand tightly grasped the hilt of the sword. The sword light was so bright and dazzling that it seemed to pierce the night sky and illuminate the darkness. He used all his energy and will, swung the sword, and cut off the head of the Beast King level Tiger Soul. The sword slipped from Ji Chungbin's hand. He covered his chest, knelt on one knee in the air, and tried to support his shaky body. It seems that you are old. You can't even detect the disguise of Tiger Soul. You are really a rookie. The giant eagle's taunting had not yet ended when a beam of light carrying unparalleled momentum came to its face. The giant eagle was severely damaged by the attack. It flew backwards wailing, knocking down several buildings and rolling out of the wall of the mechanical city. And Ji Chungbin's last shot also drained all his energy, and he was tottering in the air. But he did not fall. He struggled to retrieve his sword and flew to the city wall with difficulty. He gritted his teeth, pointed his sword at the surging beasts in front of him, and burst out with a final roar, "Kill!" Ji Chungbin supported himself with his sword, and scanned the herd of source beasts below with a sharp gaze. His might was like a violent storm, which frightened the source beasts. For a moment, no one dared to step forward to challenge this brave city lord. The giant eagle had already abandoned its troops and fled, not daring to stay for a moment. The source warriors had no time to wallow in sorrow. They shouted and rushed towards the source beasts, engaging in a desperate fight with them. Ji Chungbin watched the beast tide gradually collapse, with a trace of relief flashing in his eyes. However, his eyelids became heavier and heavier, and his legs and feet became weaker and weaker. He was unwilling to fall down like this. How could he fall down when his great revenge had not yet been avenged? He opened his eyes angrily and stared down with wide eyes, his thoughts never changing. I will continue to defend my city. The blood on Ji Chungbin's chest had stopped flowing, and the terrible hole had begun to grow new flesh and skin. But the strong willpower did not bring back the miracle. The heart was one of the hubs of the source of power, and conventional means of source power could not restore it. He still did not change his posture of holding the sword and glaring at the source beast under the city wall. He stood there like an eternal sculpture, as if he was still guarding the SO1 mechanical city. When Yuan's and the other two arrived, he still refused to fall down from the city wall, refused to close his eyes, and even stared firmly in the direction where the giant eagle had slipped away, refusing to move. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 65 Reconstruction. The emergency mission is nearing its end. The source beasts that were lost in the city have been basically eliminated, and the repair work on the outer city wall has been successfully completed. While carrying out the finishing work, Yuan's watched the reconstruction of the devastated S01 mechanical city. As Yuan Zi was performing the final cleanup work, he could not help but be attracted by the rebuilding of the mechanical city. The sky of this once devastated city was already filled with busy engineering robots, which, in coordination with the automated building modules, gradually awakened the city from the ruins and restored its former glory. These robots and modules cleverly use anti-gravity technology to break free from the shackles of the Earth and redelineate the future appearance of the city in the sky. The sunlight penetrates the heavy dust and sprinkles on the surface of the building, like the fingerprint of time, heralding a new dawn. Yuan's looked at the busy robots in the sky, and his thoughts drifted back to the moment when he reunited with his master yesterday. Li Haisheng was standing under a group of busy robots and directing them. He looked a little younger, still that short, lonely and tall figure. Li Haisheng must have experienced a transformation of life. His spiritual power gradually overflowed, turning into vitality and light surrounding his body. This change made Yuan's feel both familiar and unfamiliar. The master really crossed that huge gap. Why don't you smoke anymore? Yuan's ran over quickly and stood next to his master. I've quit smoking. I haven't smoked since I smoked my last cigarette at the martial arts gym. Li Haisheng replied, turning his head. A warm smile gradually appeared on his serious face. He opened his eyes wide and looked carefully at Yuan's, whom he hadn't seen for nearly a year. You've grown a lot. You're taller than me now. You should be about 1.8 meters tall, Li Haisheng said with emotion. Yes, master. I suffered a lot in the training camp. Yuan said with a smile, and began to tell his master about every detail of the training camp and the new friends he met. It's really unexpected that the alien AI gave me such a high evaluation. Li Haisheng sighed. Astra, you can also tell me, this is not what I said for you at the beginning. Astra projected her own image and replied with a smile, Dr. Li, can't I have my own emotions and thoughts? Li Haisheng looked at her and felt a sense of relief, as if he had seen a child grow up. He still remembered that when Astra was first born, she was still a cute little girl with baby fat. Now, she has grown into a beautiful young girl. It's really not easy along the way, Li Haisheng murmured to himself. He subconsciously reached into his pocket and took out a small square box. However, he seemed to realize something and put the box back somewhat awkwardly. Didn't you say you quit smoking? Yuan's joked. Li Haisheng smiled and did not answer. Instead, he said seriously, I asked you two to come here this time because I have something very important to discuss. It turns out that Li Haisheng's purpose of returning last time was not just to fight for power with Li Haiming, or to end their human experiments. His more important purpose was to rescue the people who supported him and his father in the past, and to re-establish a research organization. Now, he has used the resources he has obtained to re-establish a research organization in the outside world, which is this building under construction. In the future, with a scout-level expert like himself in charge, even the Li family will not be a threat to him. So, only a small part of these disappearances were caused by the Li family. Yuan Zi asked, his brows furrowed, obviously thinking about a deeper problem. So, what happened to Yiyang? Li Haisheng sighed. He knew that Yuan's cared a lot about Yiyang. I have been looking for him, but I have searched the Li family from top to bottom, but I couldn't find any trace of him. Later, I caught a person and interrogated him. He only revealed that one day their laboratory received an extremely important human sample. The time point coincided with the time when Yiyang disappeared, so it was very likely him. But the person didn't know what happened after that. It would be great if Mr. Yang was here, alas. His words stopped abruptly, as if he was drowned by some deep sorrow. The silence in Yuan Zi's ears did not last long, as a team of Yuan warriors rushed past, dragging Yuan Zi out of his memory. Yuan Zi turned his head and saw the busy figures of the Yuan warriors shuttling around in every corner of the city. They stepped into the depths of the ruins, carrying advanced construction equipment and nanomaterials, clearing hidden dangers that were difficult for robots to handle, and accurately placing the materials needed for reconstruction in designated locations. At the same time, people's vitality is gradually being stimulated on this busy construction site. Engineers operate the huge holographic projection screen and carefully plan the layout and architectural design of the new city. Their fingers dance flexibly on the virtual interface, creating one amazing construction plan after another. As time goes by, high-rise buildings are rising from the ground, and streets are spreading out in an orderly manner. The city is recovering at an astonishing speed, and it seems to be more beautiful and prosperous than before. The original slums have completely disappeared and turned into a large park. Some facilities in the park were not yet in place, but the electronic screen was playing a piece of news. Recently, the construction of a brand new park in the city has attracted much attention. The original site of this park was once a slum, but after the beast tide, it was transformed into a new place for citizens to relax and have fun. This huge transformation is due to the generous sponsorship of the Li family and the strong support of the martial arts school. Yuan stood in front of the screen, took a deep breath, and exhaled heavily, with an indescribable anger in his heart. Faced with this kind of news that whitewashed the truth and reversed right and wrong, he truly felt a disgusting hypocrisy and stench. The Li family took the opportunity to erase their crimes. Yuan Zi couldn't bear to stay in this place, so he handed over the patrol mission and left the city. After all, he still had a D-level mission that he had been delaying, and if he delayed it any further, he would lose a lot of contribution points. Now I have a phase gun that Rit gave me, so I can find a good opportunity to kill this body-tempered bird. Soon, Yuanzi arrived at the target location. The Shining Eagle is a medium-sized flying source beast with strong reproductive capacity. Although it does not have a strong desire to attack, it often disrupts the surrounding power equipment and causes considerable damage to human cities. Yuanzi was in camouflage mode, looking at the Shining Eagle from afar. It has a streamlined body and a wide wingspan. The eagle's beak is extremely sharp and carries a weak electric current, and its eyes shine with ionized light. Its most powerful feature is its feathers. Those feathers have a unique metallic luster, and each feather is like a tiny capacitor that can store and release electric charge. The microcapacitor structure in the feathers is used to store charges and form a strong electric field. The charge distribution is controlled by adjusting the angle and density of the feathers, releasing high voltage, low current arc attacks or continuous high current electric shocks. Moreover, its nervous system is specialized by the source force, which can sense and interpret the weak electromagnetic field changes in the surrounding environment. Based on Maxwell's equations, it can realize the mutual conversion of electric field and magnetic field, so as to accurately locate the reconnaissance. Once the enemy enters a range, it will fly away sensitively. The best way is to kill it with a long-range attack. At this time, the toxins that Yuanzi collected from the forest lizards will come in handy. After making sure that there was no one around, he accurately calculated the angle, and launched the source power activated into aerosol mixed with toxins into the sky, waiting for it to disperse bit by bit. Soon, the Shining Eagle inhaled a large amount of toxins and fell unconscious in the nest. Yuanzi walked forward and killed the Shining Eagle. The electric light around its body gradually faded, leaving only its unique feathers still shining with metallic luster. "Why did you let me take this task last time? It almost expired," Yuanzi asked while submitting his task. "It's time to upgrade your weapon. This is just one of the materials. The mission is completed. Go back and rest early. Your master has something to talk to us in the evening." Yuanzi stretched and left. Opening parenthesis. Chapter 66 The Broken Truth. The mission finally came to an end, and the training camp arranged a rare half-month vacation for the trainees. All new trainees who participated in the emergency mission will be exempted from the pressure of assessment this month. Yuanzi declined everyone's invitation and walked aimlessly on the newly built road. That night, the part of the truth that Li Haisheng revealed to him made him feel unbearable and heartbroken. The afterglow of the setting sun gently sprinkled on the road, stretching his shadow long, as if to tear his heart apart. He walked slowly, his thoughts flowing with his steps, immersed in an indescribable pain. He slowly moved to the building that Li Haisheng had just built, which was built on the site of the half-built building. Its outline gradually emerged in the dusk, like a pen used by a giant. The new building seems to rise from the ruins of a half-broken building, and its section is still tilted and smooth. The original irregular protrusions have been cleverly integrated into the new design, like a pen tip writing a new story in the clouds, or telling about past experiences. Yuanzi swiped the ID card that Li Haisheng gave him. He could freely enter and exit any part of the building. He took the elevator directly to the second top floor, where there was a whole floor of professional and advanced medical equipment. In this spacious space, many highly skilled doctors were busy, but they only provided services to 3 people, Yuan Chong, Yuan Tai and Mei Jianan. Yuanzi disinfected his entire body, put on sterile clothing, and walked to the door of a ward. Looking in from the window, Yuanzi's parents were lying on the hospital beds, with all kinds of tubes inserted into their bodies to maintain their vital signs. The densely packed instruments around them displayed various values AA at all times, and only the occasional ticking sound could be heard. Alas, fortunately your master and Elder Yang had the foresight to allow your family members to become source warriors, otherwise this time you would be in great danger. This is a blessing in disguise. Astra comforted Yuanzi, but was speechless for a moment and didn't know what to say next. "You're right, let's go see my brother." Yuanzi's younger brother was in a nearby ward, and he was not seriously ill. Yuanzi pushed open the door of the ward, and a faint smell of disinfectant hit him. The ward was so quiet that only the sound of breathing could be heard. The curtains were half drawn, and the afternoon sun shone through the clouds, sprinkling on the white sheets. Yuanzi's brother sat on the bed, staring blankly ahead. His face was pale, as if all the life had been taken away, and his black hair had lost its luster and hung messily in front of his forehead. His hands rested limply on the bed, and each finger was bent, as if he was trying to grab something that had already left. There was a hint of confusion and uneasiness in his eyes. When Yuanzi walked into the ward, his eyes turned slightly, as if he wanted to find a trace of familiarity from Yuanzi, but in the end he was disappointed and bewildered. Yuanzi walked to his brother's bedside and gently called his name. His brother slowly turned his head and looked at Yuanzi, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. He seemed to be trying hard to recall who the person in front of him was, but the door of memory was tightly closed, making it impossible for him to cross. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, but he couldn't speak. Yuanzi shook his head and prepared to push the door and leave. Just as his master said, Yuan Tai's brain was severely damaged, his mental state was very poor, and he had lost almost all his memories. I'm afraid you'll act impulsively after knowing the truth. As soon as Yuan's opened the door, he saw his master. He closed the door gently, without saying a word, and followed his master silently to a secret room. He seemed to have something to say to him. But think about it, you're already grown up, I can't hide it from you anymore. Do you still remember that housekeeper Lu? Remember, he betrayed your family, or he was never one of old Yang's men. Li Weiming instructed him to revoke old Yang's original protection of your family and expel them from that house. Then came this overwhelming beast tide. Li Haisheng looked at Yuan's silence, and he could help but feel helpless. He continued, you should know that Butler Lu followed Mr. Yang for nearly 20 years, but when Mr. Yang passed away, his so-called loyalty disappeared. I can understand. The real culprit is still Li Weiming. If we get rid of him, everything will be fine. Yuan shook his head, then nodded. It seemed that even if he used both kindness and force, he still could not change the despicable nature of human beings. It's hard for your parents and brother to get well, and your sister also disappeared that day. You have to be mentally prepared for this. Li Haisheng saw Yuan's clench his fists, his nails digging into his flesh, but he was still thinking about the problem calmly, so he continued, it's not that simple. On the day when Elder Yang died to protect you, he was killed by Elder Li Songming, and Steward Lu is now working for Li Haiming, so you have to face the entire Li family. So Yuan's loosened his hand and understood his master's intention. His master was preparing for a rainy day and planning for things further ahead. I cut off a piece of the Li family, which also weakened their strength. If you and the Li family really have trouble in the future, I will also leave a way out for my family. Li Haisheng smiled bitterly. Although the Li family is the weakest among the 4 major families, they will definitely not sit idly by and wait for themselves to be eaten away. Will they attack me? Not for now. You are just having a grudge against Li Weiming. Given Li Weiming's character, he will not favor any heir. In that case, Li Weiming will not be able to use too much family power. I did hear that Li Haiming is interested in marrying into the Ji family. After all, both families have suffered heavy losses during this period. Who will be the 2 sides? Yuanzi thought of a lingering figure and asked anxiously. How do we know? Both sides have too many candidates to choose from. And even though the Ji family was badly hurt this time, it is still the strongest family. I guess the Li family will give a girl as a dowry. That's good. Yuan's let out a long sigh, and his heart was relieved a little. But I want to tell you that I suspect that the martial arts school and the strange beasts are colluding with each other during this beast tide. What? Is there any evidence? Yuan suddenly jumped up from his chair, the shock on his face was hard to hide. His jaw seemed to have lost control and could not close for a long time. Not to mention you, even I find it hard to believe this speculation. But I do have this piece of information. Almost all the people who were related to the disappearance case died in this beast tide, or their whereabouts are unknown. How could this be? This involves at least millions of people. Yuan's body froze, and he fell onto the chair due to gravity, and he didn't recover for a long time. When you gave me the blue vial, which was the source potion, I told you that as long as human nature exists, human beings will never be united. But this time, even I underestimated the horror of human nature. I would rather believe that this is a coincidence. I don't think they can do something so cruel. Even the city lord of SO1 was sacrificed this time. If someone really did it on purpose, that man would never let them go. Li Haisheng turned around and added. I think so too. After all, every time there is a super large beast tide, there will be millions or even tens of millions of casualties. Yuanzi recovered and agreed with what Li Haisheng added later. Let's talk about your parents. I have something for you to do. What's up? Old Yang helped you get a fake identity before. I hope you can use this identity to get in touch with the Kong family. They can provide scarce items to help your family recover. Chapter 67 Funeral. This was a special funeral. Ji Chungbin's will made him merge with the city wall, turning him into a statue that would forever guard the SO1 mechanical city. People from all over the city spontaneously lined up in long queues and climbed up the city walls from both sides to pay homage to this great and strong man who protected the entire city. His statue stood there, solemn and majestic, like an immortal monument, recording Ji Chungbin's bravery and fearlessness. People from all over the city, regardless of age or gender, approached the statue step by step with a sad and respectful mood. Some of them had tears in their eyes, some prayed silently, and some whispered their gratitude and remembrance for Ji Chungbin. The children were brought by their parents, their little hands holding the older hands. They might not be able to fully understand the greatness of this hero, but they could feel the solemn atmosphere. They knew that the person in the statue was their protector and their hero. Not only these ordinary people, but also a large number of prominent figures have poured into this mechanical city, including leaders of various top forces. It also gathers a large number of powerful people, including many scout-level powerful people in China. Even the newly crowned world's strongest man A, who had not been seen for a long time, appeared in the media reports of Province S. Yuan's also attended the funeral of the cenotaph under the introduction of Li Haisheng, using his new identity, Sun Xiao, the eldest grandson of Sun Lao. During this period, he also chatted with an old man next to him with great interest. The two of them had a great time talking and got along very well. They also talked about the current situation. It was not difficult for anyone with a discerning eye to see that the members of the four major families present only maintained superficial harmony. The death of the strongest person in the Ji family was like a crack that quietly appeared in their fragile relationship, and also made those who were ready to make a move smell a hint of taking advantage of the situation. These people, a group of hypocritical dignitaries, flocked to his cenotaph as if they were performing a grand ceremony. They offer flowers, but it seems like they are paying tribute to their own vanity. They comfort relatives, but it seems like they are covering up their own indifference and ruthlessness. The polite words they utter are like sharp knives stabbing the dignity of the deceased. After the worship, they couldn't wait to leave, as if this place was full of plague and they couldn't stay for a second longer. They turned around and left, but turned this place into an exchange of fame and fortune, chatting with each other, as if the deceased hero was just a stepping stone for them. For most of the rich and powerful, no matter how brave and fearless they were in life, the dead are ultimately of no use to them. The worship ceremony is just a way for them to maintain their illusory face, lacking sincere emotions. I stepped forward and broke this absurd hypocrisy. He knelt on his knees, worshipped devoutly, and paid tribute to a true hero. This scene shocked the hypocritical dignitaries, who turned their heads away as if they had seen something terrible. They retreated and dispersed, pretending to be unaware, fearing that their hypocrisy would be exposed. How ridiculous, these powerful people. They keep saying that heroes are useless behind people's backs, but when facing a real hero, they dare not face up to their own ugliness and hypocrisy. Their worship ceremony was nothing more than a performance to deceive themselves and others, but A's actions revealed their true colors and exposed their ugly faces. A's heart is very calm. In his eyes, truly strong people never care about other people's opinions. They only care about what they think is right. A sighed and murmured to himself, after so many years, you still can't let go of that matter. To be honest, I owe you a lot for not being able to help you all these years. He took out a pot of wine and 2 cups, poured the wine himself, and placed it in front of the portrait on Ji Chungbin's tombstone. I remember when we first met, it was your parents who desperately saved me from the Black Hawk. I soon had a brother like you, but you were left with only a useless brother like me. I remember that we had the same ideal at that time, which was to continue the future of mankind. I kept talking, as if he was pouring out his heart to an old friend in front of him, releasing his emotions that he had been feeling for many years. Afterwards, we went through many dangers together, and time really passed by so quickly. Until that day, we had different ideas, and then we parted ways. Tell me, is this right or wrong? I picked up the wine glass and touched it with Ji Chungbin's glass, smiled at him, and then drank it in one gulp. Then a deep and satisfied gulp came from his throat, as if the wine had turned into lofty ambitions, filling his heart. It's all because I was too young at that time. He lowered his head, as if a little embarrassed to continue looking at Ji Chungbin, and continued talking to himself. I'm so sorry you forgave me so quickly. He filled the glass with wine and lowered the rim of his glass, so that Ji Chungbin's glass was slightly higher than his, making a crisp sound. He raised his head and drank it all, then looked at the tombstone in front of him. The sun shines through the sparse clouds, scattering mottled light on the tombstone. It is located in a quiet and deep valley in the machinery city, surrounded by lush mountains, like a barrier, guarding this resting place. A clear stream gurgles through the valley, and the melodious sound of the water seems to be expressing endless thoughts for the deceased. When I entered the strongest list, there was still more than half of the good wine you and I drank. I have always wanted to drink another glass with you. The glass was filled again. He stood up, held the glass with both hands, and stopped clinking glasses with Ji Chungbin. I'll punish myself with a drink. I should have come to have a drink with you when I first reached the top of the power list some time ago, instead of continuing to consolidate my gains from the battle. If I had, I wouldn't be in this situation now. He finished another glass, stood quietly in front of the grave, and picked up the glass of wine placed in front of the tombstone. This glass of wine was the last bond between him and his deceased friend, and a testimony to the happy times they had spent together. He closed his eyes and gently tilted the glass, letting the wine slowly seep into the soil, as if he was drinking this last glass of wine with his brother underground. At this moment, he seemed to be able to feel the presence of his friends, as if they had returned to the time when they laughed together. The surrounding trees swayed gently, making rustling sounds, mixed with the sound of wine dripping on the ground, as if whispering morning. He opened his eyes, and saw only an empty tombstone and a deserted cemetery. He knew that Ji Chungbin had left and would never come back. I am too embarrassed to see you this time. Next time we meet, I will bring the Black Eagle's head to pay tribute to you. Let's have a good drink on the city wall. After saying that, he disappeared from the spot, leaving only the wine glass shaking in front of the tombstone, and then gradually calmed down. Chapter 68 See-Through. After the holiday, SO1 has almost recovered, and even has a lot of new buildings and more high-tech public facilities. Many newcomers have flocked to S01 to find vacant positions, and the city has a brand new look. Yuanzi also knew that the S+ level group mission, the disappearance case in S province, had been completely removed from the mission files of the training camp. The ferocious beast tide brought all the clues to an abrupt end, and it was no longer possible to track them down. Yuan stepped into the portal that Li Haisheng had customized for him. This time his destination was the B03 mechanical city. It was time for him to sort himself out and get back on the path of cultivation. Jens walked slowly along a red velvet carpet extending from the magnificent building and arrived at the entrance of the new building. "Hello, please show me your invitation," the guard asked politely. At the same time, Kong Junxi walked through the exclusive passage next to him, and his eyes inadvertently swept across Yuan's who was showing the invitation. He felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity and looked at this strange face curiously. Logically, he should have an impression of all the guests invited to the ribbon-cutting ceremony, but this person's face made him feel very unfamiliar. In fact, this is not surprising. After the last transformation of the assessment tower, Yuan's gene chip has an additional ability to disguise himself. With Li Haisheng's endorsement, his identity has become more secretive. Unless a DNA test is conducted, his true identity cannot be revealed at all. After a rigorous inspection, Yuanzi finally stepped into the luxurious reception hall. The hall was filled with so-called upper-class people from various countries and regions. They shuttled among the crowd and exchanged intelligence and information with each other. However, in Yuanzi's eyes, these so-called celebrities were just a group of small people who were seeking fame and fortune and playing a game of testing each other in the world of fame and fortune. Vanity Fair is the most empty thing. If it weren't for Li Haisheng's reminder and Mr. Yang's final instructions, he would not have appeared on this occasion at all. He leaned alone in a corner of the banquet, staring at the glass of golden champagne in his hand, with a unique aloof temperament. "Hello, may I know your name?" He raised his head and looked at the face of the visitor, and couldn't help but smile. However, he still remained elegant and calm on the surface. "You are too kind, I am just a commoner, how can I ask for your name?" Kong Junxi very kindly extended an olive branch to him and felt sincere admiration for Yuan's humility and uniqueness. He observed Yuanzi carefully, and felt that this young man was heroic and valiant, and exuded an extraordinary temperament. More importantly, they were of similar age, which made Kong Junxi feel closer to and respectful of Yuanzi. "Haha, brother is really funny and humorous. I am the second in the Kong family." "Second master, I'm sorry to bother you." A well-dressed official bowed to them. "Young Master Sun, Manager Kong wants you to go to his office for a chat." "Young Master Sun, who is this distinguished guest? I don't remember any Sun family having such a relationship with my Kong family." Kong Junxi muttered in his heart, constantly wondering who this, young Master Sun, was. Not only him, but others also keenly caught the butler's words and looked at young Master Sun, who left with the butler. Yuanzi was the only guest invited today. Speculations about his identity also became a hot topic on the scene. The butler led Yuanzi to the door, and after carefully confirming his identity information, the door slowly opened. He maintained an elegant posture, with one hand on his chest and one pointing to the door, his eyes always respectfully fixed on Yuanzi, without crossing the line. Yuanzi walked into the door and couldn't help but secretly admire the housekeeper's professionalism. He saw that the housekeeper was still standing straight at the door, looking forward firmly, and he didn't waver at all until the door slowly closed. This scene reminded Yuanzi of the housekeeper Lu he had met before. In comparison, the two were completely different. "Young Master Sun, please take a seat." Kong Fengchuan was the only one inside, so Yuanzi was no longer restrained and sat down confidently. "We are very sorry for not offering a helping hand right away regarding Mr. Sun's pawnshop." Kong Xuanfeng's smile was very approachable, but Yuanzi's heart flow told him that he was a rather complicated person. No, my grandfather has been traveling for many years, so it's inevitable that he would have enemies. What's more, my grandfather also said that offending people is not scary, but it's scary not knowing how to face people. Yuanzi's words revealed calmness and magnanimity, as if he didn't take the matter to heart. Kong Xuanfeng heard this and changed the way he addressed Mr. Sun, wanting to get closer to Yuanzi. "Oh. How is Mr. Sun now?" "He was injured and is recuperating at home. My grandfather has thought it through. He feels that he is old and it is time to hand over the business to the younger generation." Yuanzi's answer was flawless, expressing Mr. Sun's current situation and hinting at the family inheritance. "What about your father and mother?" Kong Xuanfeng smiled but stabbed out a fatal sword. Yuanzi was startled, knowing that Kong Xuanfeng was testing his background, so he replied calmly, "They have never liked doing business and are only interested in scientific research. By the way, have you heard about Li Haisheng? They have recently attracted a lot of scientific research talents, and my parents happen to be favored by Li Haisheng's team." Yuanzi's words cleverly resolved the doubts about his identity, which made Kong Xuanfeng, a shrewd man, feel a little unbelievable. He found himself at a disadvantage in front of this young man, which made him feel a little embarrassed. "It's all my fault. Why do I keep asking about your family affairs? Let's talk about business." When Kong Xuanfeng talked about the entrusted matters, he said that Mr. Sun had a very sharp vision. A few months ago, he invested a huge amount of money to buy shares in the Kong family's free trade company, and they were extremely valuable original shares. It was also clearly written in the contract that he required all dividends to be exchanged for cultivation resources of equal value. The specific ones would be decided by his grandson who participated in the dividends that year. Yuanzi looked at the contract and felt a surge of sadness in his heart. He knew that this was the last gift from Mr. Yang, but he could not show this emotion. He could only suppress the turmoil in his heart, calmly accepted the agreement, and signed his new name, Sun Ziyuan. A good name and a good name complement each other. "Manager Kong, thank you for your compliment. I still have something to trouble you with." Yuanzi used the situation he just compiled and wanted to draw up an agreement with Manager Kong on the grounds that Li Haisheng entrusted his parents. Astra initially determined the following. A Konga S Free Trade Company investor and Haisheng Industrial Company financing party held by Li Haisheng reached the following gambling agreement. 1. The investor shall invest no less than 100 billion Chinese yuan in the financing party each year, which shall be paid in one lump sum and shall last for X years. The two parties may negotiate to determine the specific number of years. 2. As a condition of the bet, the financing party promises to provide the investor with a technology patent with an estimated value of no less than 12 billion Chinese yuan free of charge within 150 months after the investment funds are received each year. 3. If the financing party fails to provide technology patents that meet the valuation requirements on time in any year, the VAM clause will be triggered. A. The financier needs to pay the investor a penalty equal to Y% of the investment amount for the year Y is determined by negotiation between the two parties, such as 10%, 20%, etc. B. The investor has the right to choose to continue to implement the agreement or terminate the investment early, and require the financing party to return Z% of the investment amount. Z is determined by negotiation between the two parties, such as 50%, 70%, etc. 4. If the financing party provides technical patents that meet the valuation requirements on time within the agreement period, the VAM clause will not be triggered and both parties will continue to perform their respective obligations in accordance with the agreement. 5. This agreement shall come into force on the date of signature and seal by both parties and shall be legally binding on both parties. Any disputes shall be settled through friendly negotiation. If the negotiation fails, a lawsuit may be filed against an organization with jurisdiction. Quote, "I'm sorry, this is a losing deal." Kong Xuanfeng was not fooled by the superficial figures. He knew that even though the investment was in place at one time, no matter how high the valuation of the technology patent was, it had to be transformed into practical applications to generate benefits. Considering the time value of money, this deal was obviously not cost-effective. But suddenly Kong Xuanfeng's face froze. He looked at Yuan's, then at the contract projection on the table. After a slight embarrassment flashed across his face, he nodded. "But we do, and the contract is drawn up now and will take effect immediately." It was already late at night when the two men discussed and signed the contract. They shook hands to announce the official start of the cooperation. Yuan smiled, which was rare for him. He also did what he could to help his master, Manager Kong. "Just send it here. My grandfather asked me to pass on a message." "You tell me." He said that the younger generation should be allowed to make their own decisions, so that they can grow. After Yuan's finished speaking, he left without looking back. The door closed, but Kong Xuanfeng was sweating profusely. This was not something his grandfather had taught him, but something the young man had sensed. What was even more terrifying was that this was not something he was told, but something he had told his grandfather. The hidden door on the other side opened, and an old man in a wheelchair was pushed out. What was shocking was that the person pushing the wheelchair was actually a scout-level expert. "I told you, this kid is not simple." The old man in the wheelchair spoke slowly. His eyes seemed to emit a light that could see through all illusions and see directly into the essence of things. "I hope you won't interfere in his affairs, let alone have any designs on him. As long as it involves his business, as long as it is controllable, regardless of profit or loss, just do as you are told." "Father," he just said something rude. The man who helped him push the wheelchair also spoke, and then he turned to Kong Xuanfeng. "Son, what do you think?" "I am stupid, please enlighten me, elders. Compared to your father, you are only so proud of yourself." Well, it's time for me to enjoy my old age. From now on, I will not be involved in the management of the Kong group. You two will be fully responsible. I will have someone issue a notice on a chosen day. Kong Renhui waved his hand and said, don't argue with an old man like me. You and your son should discuss it carefully first. After all, there is no hurdle that a father and his son cannot overcome. Stop the conflict. This is my last request to you two. Yes. He drove his wheelchair back to the secret room alone, took out a photo and smiled mysteriously. Chapter 69, To Control the Source Warrior. Yuan's returned to the training camp early, lay on the bed, looked at the other 3 empty beds, then opened the memoirs prepared for him by Astra and began to recall the past year. This year, for him, was like an adventure full of challenges and rewards, sadness and joy. Those mysteries, those emotions, everything was pushing him forward. The second year of the training camp is about to begin, which also means that all students will move from the body tempering level to the higher integration level. This leap requires not only a solid theoretical foundation, but also a lot of practical experience to support it. Only in this way can they perfectly integrate the source power with themselves and realize the ability to mobilize the source power at will in battle. When they break through to the peak of the integration level, all the source power and body will be integrated and sublimated again, and even when facing extraordinary human strongmen, they will have the strength to fight. From that time on, the trainees will no longer enjoy any protection from the training camp, and they will lose their last barrier. At that time, they will not be as free to do anything as they are now, especially when doing tasks that are beyond the scope of the training camp. They will have to be more careful. As for his new identity, it will become his last line of defense and must not be revealed to anyone else. Yuanzi was silently thinking about his future plans when a sudden message broke the silence. This message required Yuanzi to immediately and unconditionally go to the supervisory department in the training camp. The supervisory department was located near the weapons manufacturing bureau in the camp. At his current speed, it would only take him half an hour to run there. Yuanzi took a deep breath, and his heart was inevitably a little turbulent. The day when he was forced to take the medicine finally arrived. The hints from Ji Xueren, Rick and other friends also made him realize that this potion was not as simple as it seemed. They all hoped that they could find a way to avoid taking this potion. He thought of Li Haisheng's words again. Those so-called rare customized potions, although they could help people grow rapidly on the surface, might actually exhaust all the potential of a genius, just to restrain those ordinary source warriors of ordinary backgrounds. It doesn't matter. Yuanzi shook his head and jumped up from the bed. He simply tidied up his appearance and resolutely walked towards the supervision department. No matter what, he had to face all this and find his own way out. As soon as Yuanzi went out, he ran into Instructor Clauser. Seeing the instructor raise his eyes and then lower them, with an expression as if he wanted to say something but hesitated, Yuanzi understood everything at once. Instructor, I didn't have the chance to thank you for what happened last time. I understand this time too. Yuanzi looked at the instructor and smiled slightly. He knew that he would remind him about the potion. The flicker in the instructor's eyes gradually subsided. He put away his tangle and replaced it with a relaxed look. It just so happens that I also need to go to the supervision department, so I will run with you for a while. Just treat it as training. The two of them tacitly did not mention the affairs of the training camp, but only exchanged their experiences and past memories during the holiday. During this relaxed conversation, Yuanzi learned some information about Instructor Clauser. It turned out that Instructor Clauser was a high-level and top-level Yuanwu warrior who once belonged to the internationally renowned mercenary company, Cobra. His team had an impressive record, and even had a record of killing 9th Order Nirvana-level source beasts multiple times. Therefore, as a team leader, he was invited to the training camp to serve as a freshman instructor for 5 years. Yuanzi's performance this year reminded him of his comrades who fought side by side with him, making this last year away from home feel a little more intimate. However, this is also his last day in training camp. At this point, Instructor Crowther suddenly clenched his teeth, as if he had made up his mind. His pace suddenly quickened, and Yuanzi quickly followed. Crowther's running brought up a cloud of dust, and Yuanzi felt that the flying yellow dust even obscured the perception of other people on the roadside. In the past few years, I have witnessed too many so-called geniuses become mediocre because of taking that potion. Instructor Crowther said in a deep voice while running, you must be careful. I will pass by first. The instructor's speed was getting faster and faster, leaving most of the students with only enough space to catch up with him. Yuanzi slowed down, each step firmly on the ground. His footsteps seemed to be questioning the earth, as if measuring how far this world was from becoming a universal Yuan warrior. Yuanzi walked slowly into the supervisory department, asking questions step by step. In one of the offices, Yuanzi saw several big men sitting there. Several big men sat upright, their eyes sharp, looking up and down at Yuanzi, assessing his strength. Yuanzi's calm and unhurried performance did not surprise them, as if they were already accustomed to this kind of genius arrogance. What surprised Yuan's was that one of the big guys turned out to be his old acquaintance, the old man in white robe. The old man looked detached, with his eyes closed, and seemed not to care about his arrival. Just follow the process. The head coach of Jinghua also appeared from the side and handed a bottle of deep blue to the powerful leaders sitting there. After they identified them one by one, the handsome middle-aged man sitting in the C position took the bottle, stood up, held it up with both hands, and handed it to Yuan's. I am Mr. A representing the Chinese officials. In view of your outstanding performance in the first year of the training camp, we have customized this source of power potion for you that can accelerate your growth. I hope you will take it and continue to win glory for China. Yuan's took the vial of medicine, pinched it between two fingers, shook it, and looked at Mr. A through it. A is a well-known name that is known to everyone around the world. He is now recognized as the world's strongest man. As for his current level and strength, I'm afraid only the directors of martial arts schools who have fought alongside him know the answer. His eyes were golden, as hot as molten gold. This golden light even overflowed from the corners of his eyes, drawing two golden threads in space when he turned around. There's nothing to worry about, Jen-san. Take it quickly so we can see the effects. Just when Yuan's was about to drink the potion in one gulp, a sudden scolding broke the peaceful atmosphere. I disagree. Yuanzi's movements froze instantly. He looked sideways and found the old man in white robe standing there with an angry face. The old man slapped the table, stood up, and snatched the bottle of medicine from Yuanzi. This scene surprised Yuanzi very much. He didn't understand why the old man in white robe suddenly became angry. This bottle of potion is unqualified and must be redone. The old man in white robe spoke firmly and forcefully. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the potion to the ground. Yuanzi was stunned. He couldn't understand the old man in white robe's behavior at all. Why would this old man who had always been plotting against him suddenly stand up and speak for him? In a trance, Yuan's heard the crisp sound of a bottle breaking. He looked down and saw that the bottle had broken into several pieces and fell to the ground, but the medicine in the bottle did not spill. An invisible force held it firmly in the air, and it kept floating. Yuan's felt the subtle changes in this mental power. Although he could also use his mental power to lift solid objects, he was far from being able to control liquids with his mental power like this. This familiar feeling also made Yuan's look in the direction of the mental power. He saw a bald man. The bursting wound on the top of his head was an obvious sign of excessive mental power training. This man must be a senior member of the Zhang family without a doubt. Are you going crazy just as your life is coming to an end? Mr. A turned his head and looked coldly at the old man in white robe with a hint of displeasure in his eyes. He secretly sent a message to the old man, warning him not to move. Then, slowly said, Zhang Qipeng, let him drink it, don't waste time. Yes, sir. Zhang Qipeng responded, then controlled his mental power to slowly send the medicine into Yuan's mouth. Yuan's did not resist and let Zhang Qipeng's mental power send all the liquid into his mouth. Anti-poison mode, on. Yuanzi silently chanted in his heart, and then the gene chip in his body began to slowly start. A strange force flowed through his body, splitting the medicine into two. He looked inside himself and saw the light blue liquid being quickly absorbed by the cells. His strength was like a flood that broke through a dam, surging at an astonishing speed. From the starting point of the second level of the body tempering stage, he made rapid progress all the way until he reached the peak of the 8th level of the body tempering stage, where he gradually slowed down his pace. The other half of the black liquid also began to erode his cells silently. This dark force was like a blazing fire, causing Yuanzi's body to fall into endless burning and pain. At this critical moment, his immune system responded quickly like a well-trained army. They fought side by side with the antidote given by Li Haisheng to resist the rampant black liquid. Under the control of the gene chip, the immune system and the antidote, Yuanzi's body gradually regained its composure. The violent black liquid was completely removed, and replaced by a warm and gentle source of energy, which slowly flowed through his blood vessels. Then, Yuanzi rushed directly to the 9th level of the body tempering stage in one go. His entire body surface was completely covered by pure source energy, and he was only a step away from the fusion stage. This earth-shaking change in strength left all the bigwigs present dumbfounded, because none of the geniuses before had grown as rapidly as Yuan's. It seemed like the birth of a miracle. Mr. A watched the whole process of his progress, even his brows tightened and relaxed. He was once again immersed in his own struggle between right and wrong. The old man in white robes at the side could only give up after seeing this, with a lot of anger in his heart that he couldn't vent. He shook his sleeves, took the essence, and left here in a huff. After Yuan's thanked them politely, the others calmed down and left as if they had just done something trivial. Chapter 70 Simulation Training. Your instructor for this year is me, Instructor Jinghua. She was dressed in military uniform, standing straight, heroic and radiant, showing the spirit of a woman who is as good as a man. However, Yuan's could not have the slightest respect for her. He guessed that He Can's disappearance and even the death of his parents were most likely inextricably linked to this instructor. The clues provided by Halma showed that on the day He Can disappeared, Instructor Jinghua did not appear in the martial arts hall, let alone participate in the battle with the Source Beast. This almost confirmed that as one of the 5 capable men under the command of the white-robed old man, she played a leading role in the incident involving He Can's family. This time, she condescended to serve as an instructor in person, and her purpose was obvious, to better monitor Yuanzi's every move. Crowther had already revealed this to him in advance and hoped to gain his understanding. After all, Instructor Jinghua had personally arranged for him to monitor Yuanzi, such as the battle video of him defeating the Phantom Bull, which she had obtained and reviewed. At the beginning of the new school year, Jinghua, like other instructors, always put on a scolding posture. However, her eyes would occasionally glance at Yuanzi, who was a little absent-minded beside her. She obviously had a special concern for this key target. So, this year's assessment will be the biggest challenge you will ever face in your life. My only request is that you use all your skills to overcome it and stay in the training camp. From now on, you will spend the easiest 3 months of the year. During these 3 months, you will all receive extremely intensive simulation training in the training camp, and then you will repeatedly complete random tasks assigned by the training camp. If you do not have enough points for the month. Jinghua paused, and cast his sharp eyes at each student, watching everyone's reaction with interest. There was a slightly ferocious smile on his face, and he seemed to like the feeling of having the power of life and death over others. At the beginning of this year, the bottom 5% will be eliminated at the end of the month. At the end of the year, only % will be able to advance to the year-end assessment. Among these %, only % will be able to leave unscathed. If you want to stay, give it your all. Otherwise, get out. After that, Jinghua input the assessment requirements, and the students filed in, and each person was assigned to a virtual space. Okay. Instructor Jinghua's eyes suddenly froze. She stared at the video on the screen, which gradually became blurred and eventually completely obscured Yuanzi's figure. She frowned and slammed her fist heavily on the operating table. Ha ha ha, that guy must be pissed to death, eh? Astra shrank and floated lightly in the air. He winked at Yuanzi with a smug smile on his face. I have cleverly deleted all your videos. Even from other people's perspectives, no one can see you. Yuanzi kept dodging the charge of a group of tempered wild boars while saying to Astra, this is not appropriate. When there is a conflict, they will be very wary. You should modify the content of the video and cover up some key scenes. For example, use the ancient boxing techniques of the Li family and change them to ordinary boxing techniques. Astra lay in the sky, leisurely made an, okay, gesture to Yuanzi, and then began to correct the video. After some operations, Yuanzi's figure appeared in the picture again, but those key details had been cleverly covered up. At the same time, Astra also cleverly learned Yuanzi's style of doing things and destroyed the video recordings of several other people, pretending that there was a problem with the recording system itself to cover up her interference. After doing all this, Astra turned his attention to Yuanzi again. There were wild boar corpses all around him. He felt that these hardening level wild boars were no longer difficult for him, and he could easily cut through their proud armor, so he lowered the difficulty to the high-level fusion level. There is a characteristic of the fusion-level source beasts, that is, the abilities that appear at their awakening level can be well integrated with the body. For example, the previous Teratopsis dorni has strengthened its ability fusion. What Yuanzi was facing this time was a group of fusion-level phantom lens hounds. The most difficult part was not their speed or strength, but the efficient communication of their brain waves. Their movements were very coordinated, making it difficult to break their illusions, and it was also difficult to judge their number at the beginning. In a flash, a hound pounced on him. Yuanzi swung out his light blade, and the moment the illusion disappeared, another hound bit Yuanzi's ankle. He was about to kick to get rid of his bite when another one attacked his head. Its teeth collided violently with the light blade, producing a long streak of sparks. Then several more hounds flew up from the sky, almost as realistic as holographic projections. Even the flow could not tell whether they were real or fake. Yuanzi was a little tired of parrying, because he didn't know whether they were real or fake, and could only deal with them one by one. Yuanzi clearly felt some pain in his ankle, where the armor had been bitten through by the hound's sharp teeth. The oozing of blood activated their most primitive wildness. They rushed up one by one, tearing off Yuanzi's armor, removing a large piece in one bite, and then fled far away, leaving no chance for Yuanzi to attack. The round-robin battle was not friendly to Yuanzi. He closed his eyes and released his mental power. He was no longer confused by the vision, but relied on his instinctive feeling to fight. Yuanzi silently thought in his heart, trying to find the pattern of the hounds' attacks. He felt that the hounds did not attack in a disorderly manner, but attacked according to a certain rhythm and pattern. Yuanzi discovered that they could not create illusions when they attacked, because the creation of this illusion was closer to the principle of mirage, and the quality of this illusion was higher than that of the phantom cow, but it could only create one illusion and could not be used freely in battle. Often when a hound moves, his illusion will also make exactly the same movements to coordinate. So, there is one hound that pounces on him, one that provides cover, and two that create similar mirages. Yuan's opened his eyes and adjusted his strategy. He used his boxing skills to block the two hounds that were rushing towards him. He feinted and prepared to hit the one on the left, even exposing his vital points on the right. Bang bang. The sharp blade in his right hand pierced the chest of the hound on the right, and then the blade in his left hand also penetrated its abdomen. The moment the two fists touched its flesh, a dull sound was heard, and the internal force directly penetrated the flesh and blood and crushed its internal organs. Yuan's made a strong slash with his left hand and delivered a second punch with his right hand. The hound flew backwards, and its blood drew a bright red arc in the air, falling down along with the fragments in its stomach. When the other few saw this, they realized that the person in front had seen through their tactics, so they immediately jumped back, growling and baring their teeth, trying to show off their aura. Then two more came up, and it was obvious that one was real and the other was fake. But Yuan's easily saw through the disguise. There was a real one hidden inside the fake one. He first knocked the undisguised one away, pretending to deliberately let the projection pass through his body to confuse the enemy, and just when he was about to bite it, Yuan's dodged behind it and grabbed its upper and lower jaws, tearing them apart and throwing them heavily to the ground. In an instant, all the hunting dogs fell to the ground, piece by piece, with no complete body left. You defeated the Teratopsis last time. This is a bit too easy for you. Astra said to Yuanzi with a smile, why don't we see if there are any students who want a real-life match? Let me help you take a look. It's her. Yuan's leaned close to Astra's screen and saw the familiar name. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Before he could even utter the word, no, Astra clicked the confirmation button for Yuan's. She gave Yuan's a sly smile and got back into her battle suit. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 71, Vow to Revenge. Long time no see, Yuan's. You've ignored me for several months and didn't even reply to my messages. I'll explain it to you later when I have time. Without waiting for him to finish his words, Ji Xueren rushed towards Yuanzi with the lightsaber in her hand. Yuan's didn't want to fight, but seeing Ji Xueren pouting, he thought she wouldn't calm down for a while, so let's do it. Yuan's shadow double blades were like two black lightning bolts, blocking Ji Xueren's sword and trying to infiltrate the emotion of fear into it. This time, his emotional power encountered an obstacle for the first time. An imperceptible mental barrier formed around Ji Xueren, deftly dispelling his attack. Yuanzi was shocked. He didn't expect that this little girl had already broken through to the realm of Rongtong level Yuanwu. Ji Xueren's swordsmanship and boxing skills blended perfectly, and her sword dance was agile and graceful. Every attack was like a free dance, elegant and powerful. The two men fought back and forth, and the sound of swords clashing echoed in the virtual arena. Yuanzi gradually gained the upper hand with his more sophisticated attacking skills, suppressing Ji Xueren and forcing her to retreat step by step. But she did not panic and still maintained her output frequency. The battle reached its climax in the subtle transition between offense and defense between the two. Ji Xueren suddenly launched a full-strength attack, forcing Yuanzi to switch from defense to offense. What Yuanzi didn't expect was that Ji Xueren's lightsaber actually penetrated his light blade and went straight to his vitals. He had to use all his strength to activate the defense field to resist this fatal blow. When Yuanzi thought he had completely defended himself, he felt a surge of blood and spurted out of his mouth, and the defensive force field was broken. He was surprised to find a small hill behind him, and it was this sudden pressure that made him lose his balance. How is it? You must have taken a lot. Ji Xueren laughed proudly. This is the gene lock ability I unlocked after I was promoted to the Rongtong level. I call it, Painter. As long as I mobilize my mental power to imagine the picture, I can use the source power to depict it, and temporarily condense it into a corresponding material form at the location of the painting. No wonder you were using that flashy sword technique just now. It turns out you were trying to cover up your abilities. There's more than that. Look at your feet. Ji Xueren shook her eyebrows and looked at Yuanzi proudly. Yuanzi looked down and saw a layer of transparent glass under his feet. Through the glass, he saw the entrance of a volcano. The magma below was still rolling passionately and the hot breath was also surging. He was like a piece of barbecue being eroded by the heat on the glass. How is it? Don't say I didn't save your face. Yes, I lost. But then again, I didn't want to ignore you for so long. Yuanzi smiled bitterly. He felt the pressure on his back disappear, and the burning sensation on the soles of his feet was gone. He looked at Ji Xueren, ready to exit this virtual space. Ji Xueren's eyes widened as she watched in disbelief as Yuanzi's figure gradually blurred at the edge of the virtual space until it disappeared. She felt an inexplicable sense of loss in her heart, as if something precious had slipped away from her fingertips without her noticing. Clang! The lightsaber in her hand slid gently down, and the sound of it hitting the ground echoed in the empty virtual arena. She lowered her head and found that she was still in a fighting posture, with only emptiness and loneliness in her clenched fists. When she raised her head and was about to press the confirmation button, Yuanzi's figure gradually appeared in front of her. He smiled slightly, with a gentle light flashing in his eyes, looking at Ji Xueren. Ji Xueren's hand stopped in midair, and a brilliant smile appeared on her face. She threw away the sword in her hand, opened her arms desperately and ran towards her, hugging Yuan's tightly. Yuan's was a little surprised by Ji Xueren's enthusiasm, but he quickly reacted and hugged her gently. Ji Xueren buried her head in Yuan's chest, feeling his warmth and heartbeat. At this moment, all the challenges and battles disappeared, leaving only two hearts tightly dependent on each other. In this non-existent space, their embrace seemed to cross the boundary between reality and virtuality. Their heartbeats echoed in the virtual space, as if this would last forever. The hug lasted for a long time, until their breathing became calm again. Ji Xueren raised her head, her eyes full of happiness. "I'm so glad you're okay." Yuan stroked her head and smiled gently. "Yeah, I'm fine." The virtual space suddenly changed from a pure white space to a wilderness night sky. Insects chirp, birds sing, the moon is bright and the wind is clear. It was as if they were in a deep and romantic painting, with countless fireflies dancing in the darkness, like stars in the night sky, flying around the two of them. "It's really beautiful," Astra whispered softly in Yuan's ear, his voice full of amazement and intoxication. Yuan's hugged Ji Xueren to his side and looked at the beautiful scenery. "Where did you record this? It's so romantic." "You're not someone who's allergic to romance." Ji Xueren put her head on his shoulder and said jokingly, "This is the scenery I recorded in Continent M." Yuan's face turned red, and he was a little speechless. He didn't know what to say for a while. After a long time, he managed to say, "I said I want to go with you to see this beautiful country." Ha ha ha. Ji Xueren stood up, took Yuan's hand and walked forward, strolling in the wilderness under the starlight. They walked through the grass and stepped across the stream, enjoying each other's company and the beauty of nature. Ji Xueren stopped, loosened her hand, and looked at Yuan's mischievously. "This is a good place to play hide and seek." "What?" Yuanzi looked at Ji Xueren in front of him and saw that she seemed to have disappeared out of thin air. He felt a little funny. Who could find her if she was hiding? Her shady illustrator was afraid that he would never be able to find her hiding place even if he searched for his whole life. Yuan searched very carefully, not missing any corner. His careful search was very cute in Ji Xueren's eyes. This kind of concentration was not possessed by others. "You are a scoundrel, and I am a scoundrel too." Yuan's also pouted. Her paintings were so realistic. What's more, the whole piece was her painting, which made the naked eye of little use and no clues could be seen at all. After entering the flow state, Yuanzi still couldn't detect the slightest difference. He pushed aside the grass and shook the trees, but still couldn't see anything. Ji Xueren watched him gradually walk towards her, and she held her breath nervously, afraid that he would find her. But he just looked around, searching around, but he didn't find her. Suddenly, the screen trembled a little, but soon stabilized. Yuan's also found her hiding place. He deliberately stood in front and muttered, don't look for it, I can't find it at all, I'm leaving first." Ji Xueren also knew that this was Yuan's usual trick, but her own energy to maintain these images was almost exhausted, so she just let him do it. "I'm here." Although Yuan's was prepared, he was still startled. Seeing Ji Xueren laughing so hard that she was bent over, he also laughed. After laughing, Yuan's tapped Ji Xueren's forehead gently. "You little naughty boy, you made me look for you so hard." Ji Xueren made a face, stuck out her tongue, and said playfully, "Who told you not to contact me for so long? This is your punishment. If every punishment is like this, I would be willing to do it." Yuan's hugged Ji Xueren and looked at the starry sky together. Suddenly, bright lights cut through the darkness, like countless shining elves dancing in the night sky. Ji Xueren was amazed. She snuggled tightly in Yuan's arms, feeling this rare romantic moment. The meteor shower gradually dissipated, but what remained was the eternal memory in the hearts of the two. Chapter 72 Pressure. "You are really good at it. The meteor shower scene at the end is so amazing." "Haha, of course, I know a lot." At the end, the little girl almost couldn't hold on, and it was only because I hacked into the system in time that the whole scene was maintained. Astra paused proudly and continued, "My assists are not bad, right? You are amazing. I will learn more from you next time." Yuan's exited the assessment tower and ended today's training. Because he lost a match this morning, he had some points deducted and his position in the second grade leaderboard dropped a few places. But this is not a big deal. What is more important to me is the accumulation of source power. My overall combat capability is still good, but I am always held back by insufficient accumulation of source power, and I almost fell into desperate situations many times. He exchanged all his contribution points for the privileges of the Green Assessment Tower, and directly upgraded to the 5th floor. The training room on the 5th floor was different from the previous training rooms. Its internal environment became extremely heavy. Even some special instruments were required to test the body before allowing entry. The moment he stepped into the training room, Yuanzi felt an invisible force binding him tightly, as if countless invisible hands were tearing his limbs and torso apart. Under the strong pressure of gravity, his knees bent and his feet seemed to be nailed to the ground, making it difficult for him to move. With his heartbeat quickening and blood rushing, Yuanzi tried to resist the sudden gravity. His breathing became rapid, and every breath he took was like a struggle with an invisible hand. However, he did not succumb to this force. He clenched his teeth, clenched his hands into fists, and fought against gravity with a firm will. Although his body was shaking, and despite the pain and fatigue that continued to come, he never thought of giving up. Although his body had been strengthened by the transformation tower, this strengthening was mainly reflected in the structure, and the tissue strength had not been significantly improved. Therefore, under this strong gravity, every part of his body was under tremendous tearing force. Mode update, Gravity Training Mode. Astra upgraded the functionality of the gene chip, allowing Yuanzi to better counteract the effects of gravity from the training room. His tissues were constantly torn apart, and the gene chip mobilized the source power to reorganize them as much as possible, becoming more resilient with each surge of tearing and reorganization. Gradually, this tearing and reorganization tended to a state of balance. For the first time, Yuanzi felt the desire of cells throughout his body for source power. They autonomously absorbed and stored every bit of source power. He found that the source force in the cell gradually gathered and mixed with the cytoplasmic matrix to form an organelle similar to mitochondria. This is an organelle that humans have never recorded before, which should be regarded as human evolution. Yuanzi gave it a name, Source Nucleus. Astra also obeyed the command and recorded the entire evolution process for future research. There was still some soft source power left in the training room. Yuanzi began a new round of absorption and continued to study the role of new organelles in the process. Its main function is to store the source power absorbed from the outside, which is equivalent to countless micro-source power warehouses. It participates in the defense of cells and can repair various damages of cells in time through special source power fields. It can also convert the energy required by cells through a series of biochemical reactions when cells lack energy. When the last bit of source power was absorbed, Yuanzi slowly opened his eyes. He stood up and stretched his muscles. He felt no discomfort even when the gravity was quadrupled. Whether it was practicing ancient boxing or ordinary jumping, there was no longer any obstacle. Most importantly, under heavy pressure, he also broke through from the 9th level of the body tempering level to the 1st level of the fusion level. Unlike source beasts, humans will gradually fuse their source power with their bodies after reaching the fusion level. Very few source warriors will unlock their gene locks and gain special abilities. He was very satisfied and walked to the door, ready to have a good meal and reward himself before going to the White Assessment Tower for a simulated battle. However, he was blocked at the door of the training room by a group of white coats ready to go, as well as various instruments, stretchers and medical robots. What are you doing? Yuanzi's question confused everyone in front. They looked Yuanzi up and down carefully. He seemed almost unharmed and his whole body was full of energy. You're okay. A doctor wearing high-power myopic glasses squeezed out of the crowd. He held an instrument and carefully scanned Yuanzi's body. The vital signs are completely normal, no medical treatment is needed. The instrument quickly and roughly checked Yuanzi's condition and reported the results. Yuanzi talked to the doctor and found out that every student who stepped into the 5th floor training room for the first time would become fragile and it was common for their bones to be broken. Therefore, only students above the Rongtong level dared to train here or even in higher training rooms. Your talent is truly outstanding. I've been in the training camp for so long, but this is the first time I've seen a student walk out of here unharmed after entering for the first time. He continued to move closer and say polite words, then handed a small bottle of recovery potion written on it to Yuanzi. This is something the old man in white robe asked me to give you. He said it will be useful to you. Are you sure you didn't recognize the wrong person? Yuanzi touched the things in his pocket and looked at him in disbelief. The doctor did not answer his question, but kept muttering strange words and took everyone in the medical team away. Yuanzi walked to a remote corner and took out the thing that the doctor had stuffed in his hand. It was a bottle of light blue medicine and instructions for use. It was obviously the antidote to the customized medicine. It was only slightly different in purity from the one that Li Haisheng had asked him to take in advance. What on earth is this for? It is hard to imagine that the mastermind behind so many major incidents would be so generous as to give away the antidote. Is this to win over myself? Yuanzi shook his head, not knowing why he valued him so much that he even revealed the secret of the customized medicine to him. Why did he take such a risky move and act so anxious? Click. The bottle shattered on the ground, and this time there was no spiritual power to protect the liquid. The blue liquid flowed through the cracks in the broken bottle, seeping into the soil bit by bit, and soon disappeared without a trace. Yuan smashed the antidote that Li Haisheng gave him. Even if he didn't have Li Haisheng's antidote, he would never accept a gift from his enemy. Chapter 73, Trouble Again. Yuan's is currently on a plane to Yan Province. Unfortunately, he was assigned to perform a security mission. Yesterday, just as he finished a matchmaking training, the system forced him to log off and issued him an urgent task. Emergency B-level mission released. In view of the current severe epidemic situation in Yan Province, a large number of source warriors have been infected and lost their combat capabilities, resulting in tremendous pressure on the security work in the region. In order to ensure that the epidemic does not spread further and maintain social order and stability, it is decided to urgently transfer outstanding students from the elite training camp to reinforce the security forces of Yan Province. The task requirements are as follows. 1. The support team must assemble in the shortest possible time and make necessary protective and preparatory efforts to ensure their own safety. 2. After the support team arrives in Yan Province, it must quickly connect with the local security department to understand the latest epidemic situation and security needs and formulate a detailed combat plan. 3. During the execution of the mission, the support team must strictly abide by the epidemic prevention regulations to ensure that they are not infected, and actively assist local departments in carrying out security work and maintaining social stability. This mission is urgent and important. I hope that all the elite students who have been selected can respond quickly and go all out to complete the support mission. I believe that with everyone's joint efforts, we will be able to defeat the epidemic and maintain social harmony and tranquility. Quote. Yuan's didn't understand the current situation. Why did these weird things happen all the time? And according to the information sent by Halma and Li Haisheng, the outbreak of this virus was not simple. But what made Yuanzi laugh and cry was that all around him were third-year top-level students and above whom he did not know, and he was the only second-year Rongtong-level student on the plane. How come you were chosen, Junior? Maybe it's because I'm the first sophomore to reach the Rongtong level, so they let me come out and hone my skills. Yuanzi could only find this reason to barely deal with this blonde-haired, blue-eyed Westerner. Wow, you are really awesome. At this time last year, I was only at the 8th level of the body tempering grade. Your source power level is almost the highest in our class. Let's compete with each other next time we have a chance. The man looked at Yuan's with some envy and stretched out a hand, wanting to shake hands with Yuan's. My name is Zhang Cheng's. My name is Yuan's. Yuan saw that he had no ill intentions, so he stretched out his hand and shook it, feeling a little confused. Are you Chinese? Of course I am. Look at my fluent Chinese. But my mother is from Meiying. She fell in love with my handsome father and traveled across the ocean to marry into the Zhang family. Then, the handsome me was born. After saying this, he smiled brightly. I don't know what kind of love I will have. I tell you, I like. This guy talks a lot. That was Yuanzi's first impression of him. But he also had a chance to take a closer look at him. In addition to his long golden hair and clear blue eyes, he did have the facial features of a Chinese, very neat and tidy. But what Yuan's didn't expect was that he kept nagging until the plane landed. Yuan's was almost crazy because of what he said along the way. But what made him most embarrassed was that this blonde-haired, blue-eyed Chinese man greeted the others as soon as he got off the plane. This is my new little brother. If any one of you embarrasses him, I will make him pay for it. Why don't you ask for my opinion? Yuan secretly poked Zhang Cheng's while everyone was leaving for the gathering place. Ha ha ha, Junior, I'm the strongest in this class, you can't go wrong if you listen to me. He laughed again and patted Yuan's on the back. Let's go. Yuan's held his forehead, feeling helpless when facing Zhang Chengji's irrelevant answer. He seemed unable to understand the implied meaning of other people's words. After arriving at the gathering place, everyone put on the special biochemical suits distributed in advance, ready to enter the mechanical city of YN01. Looking up, the city's government gates were tightly closed, and the high walls were covered with the army's biochemical special patrols, ready to fight any enemy that might break the blockade. Dong dong dong, as the sound of bells echoed in the empty streets, Yuan's and other students successfully passed the inspection and entered the mechanical city before curfew. Yuan's remembered that the book had described this as a city famous for its gorgeous sea of AA flowers. In the past, even in winter, those colorful flowers should have covered every corner of the city like brocade. But now, the unattended flowers withered and crumpled on the streets, with only the wind blowing through the empty roads, blowing up fallen leaves and dust. The shops along the street were closed, the lights in the windows had long been turned off, and only a few scattered notices were left, swaying gently in the wind, telling people that the city had been closed. Looking from afar, the lights behind the windows of every household gradually went out, leaving only the light of the street lamps swaying in the cold wind, like the eyes of the night, quietly watching this silent city, with only the occasional sounds of cats and dogs quarreling in the distance. Yuans followed the sound and saw a few dirty pets rummaging through the garbage in an alley for food. When they saw humans approaching, they seemed to be avoiding some danger and were soon swallowed up by the darkness, disappearing into the night. A good city has turned into this. Zhang Chungs couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the depressed city. Yeah, this looks like the end of the world. Yuanzi couldn't help but sigh, then he opened the curtain and walked in. Don't look at it, just go in. This is the temporary task distribution center set up by the training camp. Each student is assigned some subtasks here, and of course they can also take the initiative to accept some additional tasks. When it was Yuan's turn, he was assigned a patrol mission outside the city. But soon the supervisor received some news, frowned, and revoked Yuan's mission, replacing it with a patrol mission within the city. Yuanzi, don't leave yet. There is one last task left to analyze the virus. Take it, I think it will be helpful to you. Astra reminded Yuanzi to pay attention to the task that had not been assigned yet. When did you start judging the value of things based on your feelings? Oh, just listen to me. Good. Ahem. The supervisor looked at Yuans who was in a daze and nodded at him. Do you have anything else to say? Yes, I'll take this task as well. As he spoke, Yuan swiped the task from the screen to his bracelet. Do you want to think about it again? There is a punishment for not completing the task. Although the two were separated by masks and he could not see Yuan's appearance clearly, the information showed that he was not only the lowest level student but also a student with no medical training experience. Although the reward for this task was high, no one was willing to take it. It's okay. I know what I'm doing. Yuans waved his hand, opened the panels of the two tasks, and walked out with big strides. Are all the geniuses in the elite training camp so good? The man scratched his head through his chemical protective suit and watched Yuans leave in confusion. Chapter 74 Equipment Problems. Don't come and cause trouble for us, get out of here. Yuanzi was mercilessly kicked out by Xu Shangdong, the head of the YN-01 biochemical laboratory. The unshaven bearded scholar didn't care that the visitor was a Yuan warrior. Seeing that he had no academic achievements and wanted to participate in research related to millions of lives, there was no way. Astra, look, I can't even get through this door, and you want me to take this mission. I really don't understand you. I don't have a brain, so there's no point blaming me. Astra joked with Yuans with a smile. I'm not in the mood to joke with you. What should I do? Yuan spread his hands, feeling helpless. Have you noticed the details of the mission? This source force virus is very strange. Once it is taken out of the patient's body for analysis, it will immediately die and lose its activity. All genetic material will shatter in an instant. Through some simulation analysis, these researchers believe that this virus may be able to coexist with organisms under certain source force conditions. So what? So one of the tasks is to find the host of the pathogen, which may be able to provide a specific source of power. And through the big data model analysis of this plague, I can be sure that the host is a creature in the city, and it is not even ruled out that it is an asymptomatic human infection. Yuans kept communicating with Astra and soon understood Astra's idea. He also developed a special method to find the carrier of the virus. But the problem is that they don't have the source silicon crystals or the equipment to make enough nanorobots and life resonators. These nanorobots should be found at the mission location, the biochemical laboratory. You should find a way to deal with that difficult old scholar later. I'll tell you a few parts of the resonator at the back. They can be used together. Go find it yourself. Depend on. Yuanzi stared at the parts Astra sent him and couldn't help cursing. Superconducting electromagnetic detector. Nanoscale signal amplifier. 0-point energy filter. I've never heard of them. Where can I find these three? Here's the information for you. Li Haisheng said that there are some things you have to do on your own. And I think finding these things can help train your abilities. Astra said lazily to Yuans. I never thought that one day you would tell me how it feels, something that doesn't sound like AI at all. Yuans adjusted the atmosphere and decided to report to the military first. After all, the Ji family had a close relationship with the military, and several people who paid tribute to Ji Chungbin that day were bigwigs in the military. He even used the name, young master's son, to become friends with an ordinary old man. Of course, Yuanzi only found out the old man's true identity later. Astra, identity disguise. All of a sudden, Yuan's appearance and all his identity information changed to, young master's son. He then sent a message to this big boss, and after thinking for a moment, he sent a message to another person. He ran towards the military headquarters at high speed. Because this incident involved border issues and the city lord had fled in advance, the Chinese government rarely sent two big men who were stationed in the southern military region at one time. Both of them were scout-level strongmen, and one of them was a close friend of young Master Sun. Yuan's passed the inspection of the battalion headquarters smoothly and entered the command post under military jurisdiction. Sun Ziyuan, how are you? How is your family business going during this period? Yuan smiled, not at all constrained by the old man's pressure, and found a seat to sit down calmly. Commander Chen, everything is going smoothly. Although there haven't been any major moves recently, I was able to facilitate the cooperation between Haisheng Industry and Kong's Free Trade Company some time ago, which is also a small achievement. Suddenly, there was a loud laugh and applause from outside the door. The sound was so loud that it seemed as if the entire corridor was shaking, and the air in the room seemed to freeze. What a promising young man. A middle-aged man broke in without knocking. Chen Shuai frowned slightly, and then his eyebrows were submerged in his wrinkles. I'm meeting a guest. Then you guys continue chatting, I'm just passing by. That person's voice seemed to have magic. Even after everyone left, its voice lingered for a long time. Sun Ziyuan, let's go to another place to talk. They moved to a dark house. The room was very special, with smooth and seamless walls without any protrusions or gaps to prevent sound from leaking out physically. Even the wall material was made of a multi-layered nano-material called sound swallower, each layer absorbing different sound wave frequency bands. When sound waves hit surfaces in the room, these nanostructures vibrate, efficiently converting the sound energy into heat, which is then dissipated silently into the air. Chen Shuai lit a few candles, bringing a faint light into the room. Then he used his source power to form an invisible barrier, tightly sealing the entire room and blocking all sounds from coming in and out. This room is specially designed to prevent eavesdropping. Commander Chen, you are doing this to prevent the deputy commander from eavesdropping. Haha, you are smart, I like that about you. The guy just now was the newly promoted Deputy Commander Chu Lan. I haven't figured out his gene lock ability yet, but after spending the past 2 months with him, I think it should be related to sound. So you, old man, have taken double insurance. The operation that Commander Chen just performed is similar to the secret method that Yuan's passed on to Li Haisheng. That's right, but coming to that, I'm curious, why did you rush here to see me? I have a way to find the host of the disease. Commander Chen did not reply immediately. It was not that he did not trust Yuan's. He stared at Yuan's with sharp eyes, trying to read the truth from Yuan's expression. It is said that businessmen will not do anything without profit. What are you doing here? Commander Chen could not detect any lie, so he manipulated his mental power, poured 2 cups of hot tea and handed one over. Yuan's took the hot tea handed to him by Commander Chen. He naturally knew the doubts in Commander Chen's heart. After all, it involved the safety of an entire mechanical city, so he certainly couldn't have any chance of luck. Here are some parts one need, as well as plans and instructions for use. Yuan's had Astra draft these formal documents early on. It is said that brothers should settle accounts clearly. This is a contract I drafted, and I need to exchange some compensation. Commander Chen carefully read the projected contract, especially when he saw 3 of the parts. He couldn't help but frown and continued to look back. Although the reward is high, it is not unacceptable to us. After all, compared with the people in the whole city, it is nothing. But I am afraid it will be difficult for me to support you with these 3 devices. He turned off the projection, extracted the names and appearances of the 3 parts separately, and displayed them in front of Yuan's. I won't ask you how you know this. Commander Chen's face was solemn, as if he was weighed down by a heavy weight. These 3 are highly confidential weapon parts of China. Just the cumbersome approval documents alone, even if all of them are processed through special fast channels, will take at least half a year. We can't wait. As for the nano-robots, I can ask Xu Shangdong for some leniency. There is no other way. This is the simplest and fastest method I can think of right now. Yuan's looked at Commander Chen, who was lost in thought. He must be constantly deducing and calculating in his mind. Okay, then, without further ado, follow me. Chapter 75 Device Disassembly. Yuan's never expected that Commander Chen would actually take him into the armory deep inside the underground military base. Facing these weapons full of mysterious power, he naturally dared not be careless. Each weapon was branded with a special source power lock, which could firmly bind the source power in the body of unauthorized source warriors, preventing it from flowing freely. Even a scout-level strongman would find it difficult to break free. Yuanzi's eyes moved upwards involuntarily, and vaguely, he sensed that there seemed to be a terrifying energy surging in the secret room behind him. He unconsciously had the idea of exploring deeper. That's not what you are dealing with now. Let's do business first. Commander Chen seemed to know that he had sensed something, and walked forward to signal him not to look anymore. Clear. I have the power to decide how to use every weapon here. Now, I allow you to disassemble some of them and use them to make the instruments you need. Commander Chen's face became serious, and he spoke solemnly to Yuan's. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a loud voice questioned, dismantling. Commander Chen, you must have forgotten that I also have jurisdiction over the arsenal. I don't believe this kid has the ability to complete this job. Yuan Zi's arrival could not be concealed, and there would always be someone who would tip off these big shots. Deputy Commander Chu seemed to have predicted that they would come here, and he also invited the expert Xu Shuiju to come. Why are you as arrogant as that guy the first just chased away? This kind of professional matter should be left to professionals. As expected of an expert nicknamed Xu Shuiju, you always speak in such a serious manner. It's true that I'm not as knowledgeable as you in biology, but when it comes to weapons manufacturing, you may not be as good as you. That's true. Everyone has their own specialties. I also want to broaden my horizons. After all, learning never ends. Xu Shangdong pushed his glasses, which were so thick that they couldn't see his eyes clearly, and instead smiled more kindly. He didn't think there was anything wrong with the title of scholar, but rather thought it was a compliment to him. Yuan said this in order to take the opportunity to curb the pedantry of this old scholar, but he did not expect that he would be so stubborn. This made Yuan feel a little amused and helpless. Deputy Commander Chu frowned slightly, and began to wonder in his heart, why did he bring this old antique here? Originally, he wanted him to say a few words for him, but now it seems that he didn't play any role. Only Commander Chen curled his lips slightly, looking at the two guys, each with their own ulterior motives, and the unresponsive scholar. He felt that the scene was indeed a bit funny. All right, Deputy Commander Chu, don't be so serious. In extraordinary times, extraordinary measures should be taken. I will report to my superiors later. You don't have to worry about me doing anything for personal gain. Seeing that there were other staff members around looking here, Deputy Commander Chu didn't want to continue to embarrass him. He snorted coldly, then let him try. Anyway, I don't believe he can do anything. Even if these weapons are not refilled with ammunition and have no security devices, they are not something a young boy like him can handle. Yuan's didn't continue talking nonsense. He asked Astra to scan the weapons brought by Commander Chen and began to analyze them. Deputy Commander Chu sat on the side, seemingly observing Yuan's calmly, but with a sneer on his face. Commander Chen got a cup of hot tea from somewhere, held the cup with both hands, and watched quietly. Xu Shuiju had a curious look on his face, and he wanted to put his face close to Yuan's hands, watching his every subtle movement intently. Under the gaze of everyone, Yuan's carefully disassembled the outer shell of one of the weapons, revealing its internal structure. What was exposed to everyone's eyes for the first time were countless tiny parts, all of which shone with a cold metallic luster, connected and interacted with each other in an extremely complex and delicate way, telling everyone the powerful power and sophisticated craftsmanship they contained. Astra, is there a bomb disposal mode? There is no bomb disposal mode. Astra's voice sounded relaxed and calm. However, the suit can simulate various tools for you to use. I have sent you the structural details and places that need attention. Take your time, don't worry. Yuan Zi shook his head and gradually entered a state of flow. He observed the details inside with the precision of being able to see inside cells. His eyes wandered among these parts, engraving every detail of them into his mind. His fingers slid lightly between the components, as if playing a silent symphony. He seemed to be feeling the shape, texture and function of each component, and then dismantling them. His movements seemed random, but each step was extremely precise, as if there was an invisible force guiding his hands. As time went on, Yuan's hands became faster and faster, but his movements still maintained that amazing grace and precision, which was a wonderful picture in Xu Shuiju's eyes. Xu Shuiju's eyes were wide open, and his breathing became light and slow. For fear of disturbing the young master, Deputy Conductor Chu's sneer gradually solidified on his face, replaced by a look of surprise that was difficult to conceal. Commander Chen still maintained his calm, but the admiration and expectation in his eyes became stronger and stronger. A whole day passed, and everyone silently accompanied Yuan's, witnessing the process of him disassembling these high-precision advanced weapons. At dawn the next day, Yuan Zi finally disassembled the weapons into individual components. Under Astra's careful guidance, he selected hundreds of components that could form a simple life resonator. I'm sorry for my poor eyesight, Sun Ziyuan. I should really apologize for my rudeness just now. Although Deputy Commander Chu's face looked a little ugly, he quickly adjusted his mood. After all, he couldn't lose his composure in front of so many people. Next time before you speak, look at what others are doing. Deputy Commander Chu was choked and was about to say something when he was interrupted by Commander Chen. All right, we are all pillars of China. Isn't it great that he is so young and so imposing? You know, I was also such a passionate young man back then. You are the same, right, Deputy Commander Chu? Commander Chen came out to smooth things over, but he still didn't forget to give Deputy Commander Chu a finishing blow. Sun Ziyuan, let's go. And me, I also want to see the instrument you want to assemble. I want to know how to use it. Xu Shuiju also came over hurriedly, looking forward to witnessing his next operation with his own eyes. Yuanzi and Chen Shuai looked at each other and saw the smiles in each other's eyes. They were also full of respect for this scientist who was obsessed with academics, and naturally welcomed his joining. So, the three of them left the weapons warehouse together. Only Chu Lan was left standing there. He originally wanted to bring the scholar here to laugh at this presumptuous boy, but in the end it backfired and he was taken away by the two of them. He really didn't know how to feel. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 76 Joint Operation. After Commander Chen safely sent the two back to the biochemical laboratory, he left in a hurry due to busy official duties. Yuanzi informed Xu Shuiju of his host tracking plan in detail. After a brief contemplation, Xu Shuiju made some constructive suggestions on the plan, but overall, he spoke highly of Yuanzi's work and believed that his level was no less than that of the top researchers in the laboratory. However, compared to me, you are still a little behind. Xu Shuiju said half-jokingly, "Are you interested in staying in my laboratory for further study? You are still so young, we will definitely do our best to train you." Yuanzi smiled a little embarrassedly. "To be honest, I also want to join a laboratory with such a good atmosphere, but unfortunately, this is not designed by me. It was commissioned by a friend of mine." "Who is he? If he is your friend, he must be very young. We very much welcome him to join our team and will definitely provide him with the best training environment," Xu Shuiju said eagerly. "Are you sure?" Yuanzi touched his head, hesitating whether to reveal his name. But after Xu Shuiju's repeated questioning, he finally told his name. After hearing this, Xu Shuiju immediately beat his chest and stamped his feet, regretting that he had missed such an outstanding talent. "Professor Xu, please don't be like this. I'll go back and try to persuade him. He's not the kind of person who would bother with such things." "Okay, it's settled. You must help me persuade him." Professor Xu began to study the design of the instrument again, and Yuanzi assembled the instrument under Astra's command. Professor Xu led his research team to simulate and optimize the solution countless times. They repeatedly considered every detail to ensure that the solution could achieve the best results. In the end, they settled on the following. Quote, "The life resonator is located in the center of the mechanical city and is controlled by an intelligent neural chip, actually Astra. It receives and identifies the weak electromagnetic waves caused by the bioelectricity of different organisms. These electromagnetic fields have unique frequencies and patterns and can be regarded as the life frequencies of organisms. When a virus invades a host cell but does not cause substantial damage, it causes the electromagnetic field in the host cell to coexist and merge with its own electromagnetic field. The life resonator uses the resonance principle to resonate with this coexisting electromagnetic field by precisely adjusting its own vibration frequency. Once resonance occurs, the life resonator can immediately detect the resonance signal and accurately locate the host's position based on the strength and frequency of the signal. In order to collect and amplify these effective, life frequencies, they will use a network of nanorobots throughout the city. These robots can accurately sense weak electromagnetic waves and amplify them and transmit them to the life resonator. When resonance occurs, they are also able to respond quickly and complete the final precise positioning task through precise collaborative positioning." Quote, "Without further ado, all researchers and robots took quick action. They were spread across every corner of the city, carrying out their tasks in a tense and orderly manner. The researchers were responsible for monitoring the data sent back by the robots and analyzing it in real time to ensure the smooth implementation of the plan. In order to prevent any potential sabotage, Commander Chen also assigned a source warrior to each researcher to ensure their safety and guarantee the implementation of the plan. Although the plan looks perfect in theory, it faces some challenges in practice. Because the city is shut down, the supercomputer cannot be fully started due to energy problems, resulting in extremely slow data processing speed. You are so smart, why don't you help out? I like what you said before, but why do you say I didn't contribute? Astra retorted while analyzing, how can I beat a supercomputer in pure computing power? But my advantage lies in my strong comprehension ability. Just like why people always like to use calculators instead of their brains. Because the human brain has more important uses, and so do I. That makes sense. Yuanzi thought she had really learned a lot from others, so he stopped talking. Although he complained a few times in his heart, he also understood that Astra had done her best. Yuanzi watched Astra busy in the command room and some ideas came to his mind. The data transmission has been going smoothly, and there have been no more problems. It seems that the mastermind behind this is not a human, but a strange beast. But this may not be the case, just like when Mr. Yang and Li Haisheng took me to the auction, many strange beasts that transformed into human forms by unknown means were mixed in the auction. The training camp requires irregular blood tests, could this be related? The people above seem to be very clear about this matter, otherwise there would not be irregular blood tests, but why would they allow them to enter human life? Add to that the mysterious looks on Yang Lao and Li Haisheng's faces at that time, and there must be something fishy going on. Yuanzi's uneasiness grew stronger and stronger. He called in some Yuan warriors to guard the door tightly, and left a weaker clone of Astra in the command room system. Then, he took a helicopter and looked down at the entire mechanical city below. Turn on perspective mode, turn on visual enhancement. Yuan's used the new function that Li Haisheng had just added, so he no longer needed to wear the pair of X-ray glasses. His sight penetrated the cover of the building and carefully searched every corner of the city. However, even after a carpet search, he did not find anything unusual. Is it my fault? However, when he cast his eyes towards the researcher next to him, he suddenly realized, Astra, retrieve the data of all researchers and select all the researchers who have left YN01 Mechanical City within 3 months. For these scholars who devote themselves to research, it is very rare to leave the Mechanical City unless it is a business trip. However, in the screening results, Yuan's found a researcher named Lin Mahai who frequently went in and out of the Mechanical City in 2 months, which attracted Yuan's attention. Lin Mahai, check out the performance of the past 2 months. As expected, his performance in the past 2 months was extremely poor, and he was almost on the verge of being eliminated from the assessment. This further strengthened Yuan's suspicion. Astra, notify Commander Chen to lock onto the target, but don't alert the enemy. Yuan's put the autopilot into cruise mode, patrolling the other researchers one by one, trying to eliminate their vigilance as much as possible. When observing Lin Mahai closely, Yuan's could not see anything unusual about his appearance. Astra, hack into his system and see what he is doing. No need to hack into his system. I just found that his data reporting is abnormal. He tampered with the data of his residence, and his residence is very close to here. This news soon reached Commander Chen's ears. He immediately sent a source warrior to Lin Mahai's residence, where he found some surprising things and quickly captured him and took him into the interrogation room. Now, they need to pry the truth out of Lin Mahai's mouth as soon as possible. Chapter 77 Interrogation. You are so cruel that you actually used your own wife to conduct this virus experiment. The interrogating officer angrily threw the photos and text materials in front of Lin Mahai. Lin Mahai did not intend to defend himself. His hair was messy, and strands of it stuck to his sweaty forehead, revealing a hint of frenzy and anxiety, and his mind was jumping uncontrollably. His dry lips trembled from time to time, repeating the word, over, in a weak voice. Tell me the truth, what did you do? Lin Mahai raised his head, his eyes were filled with dense bloodshot, like an intricate red spider web, tightly binding his pupils. There was no doubt that the look in his eyes showed a numbness of hopelessness in his struggle. Yuanzi and General Chen stood aside, watching the interrogation process closely. They originally planned to use the psychoanalyzer to directly obtain Lin Mahai's information, but unexpectedly, the instrument failed in the face of Lin Mahai's strong willpower and even smoked. But Lin Mahai's spirit was on the verge of collapse, and only manual interrogation could be resorted to. There will be no result if we continue like this. Let me try. Yuan stood up and volunteered. The officer wanted to retort, but when he saw Commander Chen nod slightly, he walked aside silently and opened the door to the interrogation room for Yuan's. Yuan's did not rush to interrogate him, but gave Lin Mahai some time to breathe. When Lin Mahai's mind gradually relaxed, Yuan's began to use his mental power to gently and firmly wrap him up. Under Yuan's mental power, Lin Mahai gradually regained his composure and his behavior was no longer so frantic. Yuan's could clearly feel the deep trauma in him caused by the psychoanalyzer and the real experience. The chief of the interrogation room witnessed the prisoner's changes, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He realized that Yuanzi possessed an extremely pure and warm spiritual power. Just standing next to him, he could feel an indescribable nourishment and comfort. This young man not only mastered the secret method of spiritual power, but also unlocked the gene lock at such a young age. Moreover, it is a rare spiritual gene lock. Commander Chen, standing outside the glass door, also felt the change deeply. He recalled the first time he met Yuanzi, and the feeling of being bathed in spring breeze came to his mind again. This ability seemed to have a magical power that could unite everyone closely around him, and even turn enemies into friends. This is a friendly, yet terrifying ability. Commander Chen couldn't help but think of the plan that had been shelved for a long time. Due to the lack of suitable candidates, it had to be shelved. Commander Chen stared at Yuan's back thoughtfully, and Yuan seemed to feel the attention. He turned around and looked at Commander Chen, smiled and made a, "No problem," gesture, then turned his attention back to the prisoner in front of him. "You should be the pride of your whole family." Yuanzi's sudden words broke the suffocation in the interrogation room. Seeing that he didn't respond, he poured another glass of sparkling water and placed it in front of him. He suddenly felt like he had grabbed a life-saving straw, and put his hands on the cup, watching the bubbles in the cup surge. "Like you, I am the pride of my whole family." Yuan's also pulled out a bench and sat in front of him waiting for him to speak. He saw that when Lin Mahai heard this, his body trembled slightly, and he held the water cup, as if he had something to say. He lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. Suddenly, he uttered a few words in a torn and hoarse voice, "You are different from me." Yuan's did not rush to ask, but showed him some pictures modified by Astra, which were the scenes where Yuan saw his family in the Haisheng building. He looked up at these, then looked at the young man who was interrogating him, as if trying to determine the authenticity of these images and see through his heart. "What do you mean?" Yuanzi did not directly answer his question, but unfortunately, they were threatened and framed, and have been in critical condition. He gave Lin Mahai enough time to digest the information. Seeing that he did not explain, he took the glass of sparkling water that seemed to give him a sense of security, and drank it up, while observing his reaction out of the corner of his eye. Lin Mahai's fists turned red, as did his face, as if he had reached his limit by holding back something. "We are actually the same people, doing the same thing." Yuan's words were like a puncture in his bulging balloon. He leaned back in the chair behind him, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes, then unclenched his fists and spread his hands weakly upwards. Bang bang. He suddenly stood up, ignoring the silver handcuffs that bound him to the table and chair, and slammed his hands on the table, making a metallic collision sound. "Can you do it?" Yuan's predicted Lin Mahai's behavior and stopped the interrogation officer from scolding him in advance. "I only want to help you, as long as you are willing." Yuan's emphasized the two words, only. He knew that Lin Mahai's psychological defense against him had completely collapsed. As long as he gave him the final stimulation and waiting time, it was only a matter of time before he would tell everything. Yuan's watched Lin Mahai slowly sit down, then poured another glass of sparkling water and placed it in front of him. Finally, after a long wait, Lin Mahai began to speak slowly. His voice was weak and trembling, but every word was clear. Yuan's walked out of the interrogation room, exchanged a glance with Commander Chen, and took the information back to the soundproof room. "Your method is really unique. Even sparkling water can be used," Commander Chen exclaimed. He admired Yuan's interrogation skills very much. "Thank you for the compliment. I dare not show off in front of you. The military is better at interrogation. Just speak your mind. I want to hear it, too." "Well, actually you misunderstood him a little because he killed his wife. He is not the kind of deliberate and unforgivable criminal. I first established an emotional connection with the prisoner, using sparkling water as a comforter and a psychological tool to observe his reaction. Then, I presented my personal experiences to impress him and applied pressure using the strategy of silence and waiting. At critical moments, I heightened his tension by depriving and giving again, while repeatedly emphasizing the commonalities between us." Commander Chen smiled, his eyes narrowed into slits. "Great. You used these 7 skills to perfection. If you weren't interested in the business world, I would have wanted to recruit you to the army." "Commander Chen, I feel embarrassed if you praise me like this." Yuanzi smiled and shook his head. "By the way, this is the information I compiled. Take a look." Commander Chen put away his smile and carefully looked through the information compiled by Yuanzi. His brows knitted slightly, a sign that his thoughts were beginning to surge, like the ripples on the sea before a storm. He bit his lower lip gently, which was his habit when thinking, as if this could tighten his mind and prevent any clues from escaping. "Humanoid source beasts that look exactly like humans. I've never heard of them. How could they enter the mechanical city so easily?" Commander Chen began to feel a little restless. Chapter 78 The Culprit. "Yes, that's right, urgent news, top secret level, the severity of the situation is S+ level." He paced back and forth in the room while anxiously dialing the phone, racing against time. The development of this matter has exceeded his expectations, making him feel unprecedented pressure and anxiety. He knows that he must take action as soon as possible, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous. After he finished making all the calls, he remembered that Yuanzi was still beside him, and suddenly remembered something. "Brother Sun Ziyuan, I heard that you helped Li Haisheng. Now the situation is extremely urgent. I ask you to help us make a connection." Although Haisheng Industrial was founded not long ago, its medical companies have achieved remarkable results. From launching a genetic disease root treatment based on CRISPR gene editing tools, to super AI medical diagnostic instruments, to virtual reality treatments, each technology is a disruptive innovation. Especially the last technology, which allows patients to receive treatment in a time-compressed virtual reality, repeating the experiment to find the best solution. Li Haisheng even announced that the ultimate goal of this technology is to achieve complete simultaneous healing of virtual and real life. That is, after the patient is cured in the virtual space, his real body will also recover synchronously. Yuanzi also knew this information, so he naturally understood Commander Chen's intention. Soon, Yuanzi received a positive reply from his master, saying that he would send a team of the most elite medical team and the most advanced equipment to YN-01 Mechanical City to cooperate with the military in carrying out work. "Sun Ziyuan, you really helped a lot this time." Commander Chen rubbed his eyes and finally found a moment to rest and talk about something a little more relaxing. "If it weren't for you, I guess we would still be at a loss now. These are what I should do." In fact, these methods and ideas were taught to me by a friend of mine in an elite training camp. He is a truly amazing person. Oh, your friend. Commander Chen raised his eyebrows curiously. He is indeed not a simple person. He should be trained by the Chinese government. Yuan smiled and said, indeed, my friend is really smart. He even asked me for a favor. Tell me, I can help you with anything within my authority. He also participated in this mission, but his rank is not high, and it is risky for him to participate in various missions. Why don't you just approve it and count it as a mission pass? That's no problem. What's your friend's name? I'll just ask the supervisor to give him a task to pass. His name is Yuan Zi. Ah, send it to me. He looked at the photo and name, a little surprised, then smiled. No wonder you two can become good brothers, it's really fate. He's outside right now, having just finished his patrol mission. How about you go meet him? Okay, it's true that heroes have always emerged from youth. It would be great if China had more young talents like you. It's a pity that some people. Sun Ziyuan thus sent Commander Chen's authorization to Yuan's, invited him in, exchanged some pleasantries, and then he continued to carry out his mission. Yuan Zi didn't say much. He knew that the new identity of Sun Ziyuan had been completely confirmed, and he had a powerful backer to back him up. This was undoubtedly a good thing for him, and it would be much easier for him to do things in the future. Chen Shuai, what did you just say? Chu Lan also came to Chen Shuai's office immediately after hearing the news. Although the two of them had some conflicts, at this critical moment, it would not affect the overall situation. However, Chu Lan still has a grudge against Yuan Zi and thinks that he should not have access to this confidential information. Chen Shuai saw through Chu Lan's thoughts and shook his head gently. Chu Lan, now is not the time to waste time. Yuan Zi's contribution to this matter is not as good as yours and mine. Don't underestimate him. Chu Lan was a little discouraged and looked at Yuan Zi helplessly. Okay, since Commander Chen said so, do you have any good ideas? There is an immature plan. Don't keep me in suspense, just tell me. Chu Lan seemed a little impatient. After all, this involved the safety of hundreds of millions of people, so he didn't have the energy to play tricks. According to Lin Mahai's confession, this source beast has a high level of intelligence and can transform into a human form. This must be an advanced mimicry ability, or an ability similar to gene editing. But he said that this source beast has very weak attack power, which is more than enough to deal with ordinary people. But it takes a certain amount of time to transform into a human form, so after his wife committed suicide for their two sons, one of them took more than 2 hours to transform. Not only can he not be distinguished from others in terms of living habits and physical appearance, but the worst thing is that he has tested it and it cannot be identified by any existing technology. Then there is one thing that Commander Chen Shuai has already checked, that is, the people who have been missing and have returned. In addition, in places where the virus has concentrated, it is very likely that some of the permanent residents there have already met with accidents. There are also patients who have already fallen ill, and we also need to do a thorough investigation again, and Yuan Zi finally added, the analysis of the virus depends entirely on the medical team sent by Li Haisheng, but they are helpless unless we can catch a humanoid monster in the next 2 days. The plan is indeed rather rough. Chu Lan was not targeting him, but it was indeed so. However, it was enough to make him look at it differently. Some of the ideas provided are good. I will send my men to investigate these. Yes, although this plan is rough, it is the best solution we can think of at the moment. However, the most important thing is that we must first examine our own people and ensure the innocence of those involved in the action. Lin Mahai will be dealt with by military law tomorrow. This is a painful lesson. We must never let the source beast sneak into our search team again. Chen Shuai's summary hit the nail on the head and pointed out the most fatal part of the problem. In fact, in Yuan's heart, Lin Mahai's betrayal of all mankind has already annoyed Yuan's, and he has buried him countless times in his heart, which shows that his future fate is certain after this matter is over. But which father can be so calm when facing the threat of his own son? What if it was your own father? Yuan Zi didn't dare to think any further. He only knew one thing, that if Lin Mahai had even a little bit of resistance, even if he was just an apprentice-level Yuanwu warrior, he would definitely take his child back from those humanoid monsters who were not very strong. What if their children are also source warriors? Lin Mahai is a sinner of mankind, but a hero of children. Paul is a hero to humanity and to his children. Yuan's couldn't help but feel a lot of emotions. This world is full of contradictions and helplessness. Lin Mahai's mistakes are unforgivable, but the deeper mistakes lie in this absurd and distorted world. In this world, people struggle for survival, betray for profit, but compromise for their children. Chapter 79 New Clues in the Missing Case. The spacecraft landed very smoothly, making almost no sound. A blue ion beam quietly gushed out from its bottom, perfectly matching the ground receiver and slowly landing. The cabin door slowly opened after the plane landed, and what greeted them was not spotlights and red carpets but rows of solemn and orderly military formations. Commander Chen shook hands with the leading professor in a familiar manner, and after a few friendly and casual words, he quickly got to the point. Once this matter is settled, we can catch up again. Mr. Li Haisheng has specifically instructed that Mr. Sun Ziyuan has the highest management authority of the team. Where is he? I am here. Yuan's walked out from behind Commander Chen, and in front of him was a vigorous old man. Although the traces of time had carved deep wrinkles around his eyes were still as sharp as an eagle's. Hello, Mr. Sun. Hello, Dr. Chen. The two shook hands, skipped the unnecessary pleasantries, and got into the car directly. In the car, they talked about the current situation of YN01 Mechanical City and soon entered the city. I never thought that there would be such a day in Chuncheon. Dr. Chen finished reading the information given by Yuan's and took off his reading glasses. I'm old. I feel uncomfortable looking at the screen for a long time. Drive Chen, Dr. Chen, what are you talking about? You are the leading figure in the Chinese microbiology community. Your spirit is no less than that of young people. Yuan's joked. You are quite good at talking, kid. Okay, tell me about your ideas and plans. Dr. Chen closed his eyes and waited quietly for Yuan's plan. Yuan's believes that there are two urgent tasks. The first is to produce medicine to alleviate the condition, the second is to capture the humanoid monsters as soon as possible to see if any antitoxic substances can be extracted from their bodies. In fact, Yuan's also tried to inject the virus into his body, but now Yuan's immune system is too strong, and these viruses have been completely strangled before the antitoxin serum is produced. These are all very conventional ideas. They are not brilliant, but at least they are good. The key to the problem lies in how to find these humanoid monsters. Li Haisheng said that you have a new thing in your hand. Come to the laboratory and show it to me. Yuan's nodded and agreed to the old man's request. Of course, there was no need for him to hide it. After all, the development of science and technology requires open source and sharing. Soon the medical team entered in O1's biochemical laboratory. Xu Shuiju was very happy about this. Facing this leading scholar, he was as cheerful as a little child. Under Yuan's coordination, the two teams quickly launched in-depth exchanges to jointly explore the characteristics of this new virus and officially named it X-virus. Yuanzi took out the life resonator, explained its working principle and usage in detail, and then handed it to the medical team. He continued to hunt down the humanoid monsters. After all, they had more experience in the medical field. Just as he was about to leave the laboratory, a young man hurriedly caught up with him. Mr. Sun, please wait a moment. Can you send me a separate blueprint of the life resonator? I am studying biomechanics, and I think this will be very helpful to me. Of course, I know this is confidential and I may not be qualified to access it, but I promise to keep it confidential. Yuan's felt the sincerity in the young man's heart, patted him on the shoulder, told him that it was no problem, and asked Astra to send it to him. Thank you, Mr. Sun. The man bowed to Yuan's and hurried back to the team. You too, you didn't even ask others their names. Well, we'll see each other next time, so why worry about it? Just help me figure out how to find this humanoid monster. So, Yuan's came to the joint command post temporarily set up by the two commanders. He could hear their argument from outside the door, especially Deputy Commander Chu's, whose voice was particularly loud. What on earth are the president of YN01 Martial Arts School and the city lord doing? So many missing cases have been piled up over the past few months and have not been reported. Chu Lan slammed the table angrily, shaking the teacup slightly. This is really like looking for a needle in a haystack. They are probably afraid of being held accountable by us, so they left these poor people behind and ran away. Humph, if we really want to hold them accountable, they can't escape the blame. One is at the 9th level of Nirvana and the other is at the 1st level of Star Scout. With such strength backing them up, the most they have to do is pay a fine. Not everyone has the conditions your family has. That's not a small number. If you're not careful, you might end up working for the government for decades in vain. Commander Chen put down his teacup, saw Yuan's coming in, and passed the information to Yuan's. Yuan's took the information and glanced through it quickly, frowning. The number and frequency of disappearances were indeed shocking, even more so than the disappearances in S01 Mechanical City. It's really a headache. Our current manpower is unable to cope with so many missing cases. Moreover, according to intelligence reports, those who have returned from the disappearance are not mentally normal, and the investigation is extremely difficult. Commander Chu has been looking through the materials and is feeling a headache. Chen Shuai took a sip of tea, as if he had thought of something. Why not call Li Ru over? After all, YN province is his hometown. However, Commander Chu poured cold water on him. It's the deputy director of the martial arts hall in white robes. How can he have time? I heard that he is about to die and has been in seclusion. No guests or things can disturb him. I was wondering why he wasn't sent to capture the president of In-01's martial arts school in the city lord. I never thought that he would be the first one among the first batch of veteran strongmen to reach a dead end. The speaker has no intention, the listener has the heart. For the first time, Yuanzi learned that the real name of the old man in white robe was Li Ru, that his hometown was here, and that his life was coming to an end. This information was unknown to most people, and few people knew it except for the scout-level strongmen. What are you daydreaming about, little guy? Do you have any good ideas? Chu Lan's tone was obviously much more polite. Yuanzi came back to his senses and replied, I want to go back and sort out these data, make a heat map, and try to filter out the effective information. You don't need to make a heat map. There are heat maps on the last few pages of the document, but they are so densely packed that it's hard to tell them apart. Commander Chen reminded them, this matter is highly confidential. Since you're involved, we have to do a good job of related security work as well. Chen Shuai waved his hand, and a figure slowly emerged from the shadows. Yuan's noticed that the man was thin, but the most striking thing was his tall, spiky hair, which revealed a rebellious temperament. He is Coach Weiwa, one of the 5 coaches personally trained by the old man in white robe. He is his biological son, a strong man in the military, and my personal bodyguard. You can trust him completely. Commander Chen turned around and explained some things to Weiwa, and Weiwa's rebellious eyes also glanced at Yuan's. Yuan's and Weiwa's eyes met in the air. There seemed to be some stories hidden in those defiant eyes, which made Yuan's feel an aura that was completely opposite to his outward temperament. Deep in Weiwa's eyes, he captured an indescribable sense of powerlessness, as if behind this seemingly strong man, there was a helplessness and struggle hidden under some shadow. Chapter 80 Troublesome. Yuan's asked Weiwa to guard the door and he would not receive anyone except the 2 commanders. Astra, are the results of the analysis of all the patient transmission chains out? Yuan stretched. The high-intensity work in the past few days made him accidentally take a nap in the chair while reviewing the materials. When he woke up, more than 2 hours had passed. The house where Yuan's is now is specially approved by Commander Chen. There are 3 floors of laboratories in the basement, and it is equipped with a portal directly leading to the disinfection room of the biochemical laboratory. These laboratories are not only well equipped, but also connected to part of the computing power of the YN-01 supercomputer. Coupled with Astra's powerful logical analysis capabilities, it is simply even more powerful. The results are out, but the data processing is still a bit rough, so you'll have to make do with it for now. Astra said this, he handed the preliminary analysis report to Yuan's and continued to optimize the data processing work. Yuan stood up and projected all the information so that he could examine the information from a better perspective. Astra divides people into 4 categories: infected, uninfected, recovered and dead, and connects all the complex relationships between them. The data sample of infected people is extremely large, covering 1 million cases in all corners of YN. In contrast, the number of uninfected people is relatively small, mainly those who have few social activities, and the number of recovered people is even fewer, only tens of thousands, and they can undoubtedly be called the darlings of fate. Looking at the filtered information, Yuanzi felt a little irritated. Even though Astra had already eliminated a large number of irrelevant cases and relationships, the whole situation was still a mess, leaving him with no idea where to start. Okay, I just hacked into some devices and found some information about the missing cases. Combined with the data just now, you can take a look first. Astra saw Yuan's anxiety and sent him the latest results. This information was originally kept highly confidential, especially in terms of race, which was almost completely covered up to avoid unnecessary disputes. Even Commander Chen did not disclose this information to too many people. However, this information has now become the key to Yuanzi's search for a breakthrough. A considerable proportion of those who returned after disappearing have no symptoms. Yuanzi frowned, feeling that things were getting more and more strange. Moreover, most of these returnees are from foreign ethnic groups who joined China. YN province is located in the border area. When the Great Disaster occurred, many foreigners chose to flee here and seek refuge in China. This special background makes the situation more complicated. Just when Yuan's fell into deep thought, not knowing how to proceed, Yang Ziqi's message finally came back. Before meeting Commander Chen, he had sent a message and had been waiting for her reply, hoping to get some help and guidance from her. After all, she had close ties with the authorities and might have a deeper understanding of the current situation. He quickly glanced at the message content, which roughly meant, the higher-ups believe that this incident involves too many people, and that we cannot blockade all the cities on a large scale. Otherwise, it will cause a disadvantageous position in public opinion, leading to internal panic that will be difficult to resolve. In addition, B03 is currently discussing the details of opening up international trade, and must not cause any political incidents. Therefore, when it comes to some thorny issues, we need to try to resolve them internally as toughly as possible to avoid causing more trouble. A. Yuanzi took a deep breath and felt his confidence gradually fill up. He finally understood the attitude and position of his superiors. Although the superiors gave the two commanders more autonomy, it was also a warning to all those who were doing things. How many critically ill patients are there now? It's about 600 million at the moment, Astra responded quickly. Since Li Haisheng's medical team arrived, this number has basically stabilized, and the growth trend has been effectively controlled. Filter this data. The screening criteria are the three categories of cured patients, foreigners, and missing and returning patients. Report the results to me. When Yuanzi saw these data, his pupils shrank slightly. There was a high degree of overlap between these categories, which gave him a chill. Is this analysis reliable? Chen Shuai's commanding voice echoed in the air, with a barely perceptible tremor. He slowly raised his head, his eyes revealing deep fatigue and helplessness. His heart was numb and he felt a little suffocated. In addition, his superiors gave him more authority and pressure. He would rather fight in battle and face those roaring source beasts than get involved in this endless intrigue. Commander Chu Lan did not look up, and continued to look through the materials attentively. He tried to find some lies in the materials that could make Yuanzi's efforts go to waste, but he could not find any evidence that could make Yuanzi's analysis untenable. He looked at Chen Shuai disappointedly, sighed heavily, and a trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. Reliable. This is the result of the AIAA analysis developed by Haisheng Group, and the plan has been drawn up. No matter what, things have progressed. For the people of YN01, we must stand up. Chen Shuai stood up with his hands on the table and forced a smile on his face. Chu Lan, you should have selected the people on your side. We are ready to act. After hearing what Commander Chen said, Commander Chu stopped hesitating and felt like he had found his backbone. Let's discuss the distribution of tasks. The two commanders kept switching data and discussing every detail. After comprehensive consideration, they made some modifications based on Yuanzi's plan, making it more maneuverable and more meticulous. Then just go ahead and do it. Commander Chen sat down slowly again, and the old armchair creaked under the pressure. However, Yuanzi was keenly aware that it was not just the sound of the chair. He felt the ground shaking slightly, as if some huge monster was approaching this side. A message immediately popped up on their bracelets. In the southwest, a large number of source beasts are rushing towards the mechanical city. Satellite assessment shows that the top ones are small and medium-sized. The leader is an extraordinary level unknown source beast. It is estimated that the first wave will arrive within 40 to 50 minutes. This news made the three people feel heavy-hearted instantly. Although the scale of the beast tide was not too large, the three people felt very upset. I'm going to prepare for the fight. Your friend said that your level is very low, it's best not to. Commander Chen, please rest assured. Sun Ziyuan himself may not even be aware of the true strength of his friend. Yuan smiled, waved his hand, and said nothing more. The resentment that had been pent up in his heart for so long, it was time to stretch his muscles and vent it out on the battlefield with the source beast. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.